Origi! Yeah! Unbelievable!
Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. The morning after the Reds spanked Chelsea 4-1 at Anfield to push the gap at the top of the Premier League back to 5 points. First half goals from Jota and a first Liverpool strike for the Cop's new hero Conor Bradley set the scene before a Szoboszlai header, and a late Luis Diaz strike rounded off a terrific evening's work in arguably the Reds' best performance of the season at the perfect time. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by TLW editor Dave Usher and Dan Thomas, both of whom were at Anfield on a night where fans and players alike channeled the disappointment of last week's news into what could be the start of an historic title charge. Dave, it sounded like a wonderful and at times emotional night at Anfield. How are you feeling this morning and what's really standing out to you?
I'm feeling pretty good. It was a great night. Atmosphere was sound, performance was great. I think at the end of the game, there's lots to get to, but it's just at the very end when Klopp comes on the pitch, like usually I stay and I'm normally leaving as he's doing the fist bumps and I'll have a little look over my shoulder, and I just stayed where I was, and John had his phone out and John went, he said, like, I'm going to be a bad wolf for the rest of the season. He said, I'm filming every one of these and I'm going to keep them all. You know, I get every Klopp fist pump and that in front of the cop and that. So, I feel like it's a case now of we know we've got a few months left of this and just savour every second of it. And last night was, you said there, like, arguably best performance of the season. I don't know, but I know we've been saying that quite a few times recently, which shows we're on a good trajectory now, you know, because early in the season we were getting results, but we were doing it by maybe we'd have 20 good minutes in the game and that was enough for us to win. Now it feels like the performances have really stepped up over the last couple of months. Klopp keeps going back to the United game, even though it was 0-0, as that was the start of it. The counter press was, off the charts, and it's been like that, especially at home. Pretty much every game since, it's been really good. And the Chelsea game, the way we started the game, you could tell right away. That game started and I was like, yeah, we're winning this, and we're winning it fairly comfortably. Just everyone was at it. Just the tempo was great, the football was great. We just smothered them, didn't let them play. And I thought Chelsea actually did look dangerous when they were allowed to be. It's not like Chelsea were just shit. I've heard loads of people going on about how bad Chelsea are now. I just think most teams would have been overwhelmed last night by the way we played, and I don't think it's necessarily a massive reflection on Chelsea. I thought they had enough threatening moments on counter-attacks and that to think, yeah, they've got a goal in them here, if we're not careful. But we just played so well, it was they just had no chance, because we're just a much, much better team than they are. I mean, there's a reason why they're 10th in the table, and there's a reason why we're top. And there's so many positives. I mean, the main takeaway from it, if I have to pick one thing, it's Conor Bradley. I mean, fucking hell. That was so there's certain performances like that stay with you forever. There's when you're watching something and you're like, this is something really special what we're seeing here. I'm not talking about saying, oh, he's a really special player and he's going to be this or he's going to be that. Time will tell on that. But just that performance was me and John were just, and this is even in the first half. We're looking at each other and we're like, fucking hell, what is this? This is I said to John before he'd even scored, I said, it's mad that you take Trent out of the team. And he said, I'm not basing this on stats or anything like that. I've not seen the stats, but just what my eyes are telling me. All of these statistics of progressive passing, crosses into the opposition box, assists, runs with the ball, all this stuff. It's mad that we've actually put someone in, and I don't think there's going to be any drop off in the output of what we were getting from Trent at right back. It's fucking mental how a kid has come in. He made his debut, full debut 10 days ago. It feels like he's been in the team for 3 months, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
a bit like Gerrard when he came in some ways.
It's mental, and so what's that, his third or fourth start or something like that then? And to play like that, I might be going a little bit overboard, getting prisoner of the moment and all that, but I also said to John, I was like, Trent's been the best right back in the world for like the best, best part of 5-6 years, whatever it is. Has he ever had a game that was better than that? Just like for all round, everything that he did. It was like...
Yeah, it was complete. You're probably using a little bit of recency bias
there.
but it was just unbelievably
complete
in terms of what he was asked to do and what he did that was way above and beyond any of that. Sensational.
Everything he did was brilliant. You know what I would say, what I'm saying about like special performances and all that, I would say that was like the right back equivalent of Suarez against Norwich. Like, obviously it's not Suarez against Norwich because Suarez got like 4 stunning goals and it's one of the most iconic performances, but he's a right back, he's not going to do that. But in terms of what a right back can do and can be expected to do, that was just fucking off the charts what he did last night. He had his name sung 5 times during the game. and it wasn't like just for the sake of it. It was like he'd do something and it's like fucking hell, and then the crowd are just like singing his name. But like it was just even little things that he was doing it with like such quality and authority. It was something special. It really was. And it's quite funny because like I put something on Twitter about it, and like our mate Kane's replied and said like obviously Kane loves him because he's Northern Ireland boy and all that. But Kane said like he read an interview with Bradley's youth coach like last week over in Northern Ireland, and he'd said like he's going to end up like his best position is like box to box midfielder, and he's going to end up as like one of the number 8s. And my first thought was, fucking hell, he's coming in and he's already shifting Trent from right back. It's like, yeah, Trent, you're a midfielder now. We've got this kid. When he decides he wants to play in midfield, it's like, Trent, you're back at right back, lad. But no, I mean, imagine being able to just put someone in and he's giving you the same sort of, in a different way, of course, but he's giving you the same like statistical output as Trent's been giving us. It's just mental.
Be that as it may, in terms of like where he thinks his best position is, it's like, no, Connor, you're fucking playing right back, mate. You can stay exactly where you are, because that was unreal.
Yeah, until like the next Conor Bradley comes through in a couple of years. It's like, okay, you can go in midfield now. You and Trent as like the 2 number 8s.
Oh man. Dan, I won't frame this for you because it is an emotional time, and we're all coming out of these games with some pretty unique experiences, and yourself being at the game last night and at Norwich at the weekend. How did you see that one?
It wouldn't be the first time that I've been framed, Chris. For me, like I'm glad that we got it out of the way on Sunday. To be honest, in the FA Cup game, so kind of coming to the ground yesterday, I noticed there was more buzz and more excitement before the game, and against Norwich, it really was quiet outside the ground. Normally you've got your chitter chatter, people talking about tactics or whatever, and it was just silence. There was just a completely sombre atmosphere. And last night it wasn't like that. It was very much business as usual, and the fans reacted, I thought, to what we needed, which was we needed a big performance. And Dave's already touched on it, and I kind of felt it myself last night. Inside the first 5 minutes, I've talked on this podcast before about not getting going in games earlier in the season, and we were on it from the very first minute yesterday, and that was great to see. So yeah, I feel like there's going to be an emotional response from the players, and I think that might be part of the reason that we announced that he was leaving when we did, because it's a strange time. Obviously, there's talk that there could have been a leak coming out as well, and there's all kinds of speculation about why it happened, but it has done. And yeah, this is the first chance I've had to kind of talk out loud about it, really. Football managers come, football managers go, players come, players go, but it just feels like this manager is a bit more special than all of the others. But he what was said before the game last night worked, and I think the players, I mean, Konate, we were talking about this after the game, weren't we, Dave?
Yeah.
Where Konate said, he's going to give his life for Klopp for the next 3 or 4 months. If we play like that for the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to be lifting 4 pots, I would think, because that was a very special performance. And you mentioned Conor Bradley. I'm sure you remember, Chris. I think it was Patrick Berger's full debut at home, where he beat up on Chelsea as well.
Yeah, we were talking about that just the other day, weren't we?
Yeah, we seem to, in like the late 90s, like beat Chelsea 4-0, 5-1 at Anfield every season. So this was a nice return to those days, because I think, was it 7 draws in a row against Chelsea before last night,
Yeah.
which is like nuts really. But on it from the first whistle, really emotional response from the players, I thought, last night, because obviously we rotated heavily against Norwich, and we still put out a top team, which says a lot about how good our squad is. And last night, I was so impressed with the way we started the game, and we never stopped. We had a 5-minute wobble later on in the game when the substitutions were made, but other than that, it was
Yeah.
total domination. And as Dave said, Chelsea have got players who can hurt us. They didn't play badly; they just got overwhelmed, and that happens a lot. We're back to the good old days of teams kicking the ball out for a throw-in because we've just pressed them out of existence. Basically, it's like, nope, get rid, and that's a really good position to be in. So yeah, I'm really glad that game is now done. We've had the emotional response at home and on to business on Sunday in another very important game. It feels like a seminal moment of the season, doesn't it? Obviously, it's such an iconic performance that we will remember that performance in 10 years and 20 years or whatever. But how well we remember it will depend largely, I would suspect, on what we do on Sunday.
Dave, because I've wondered over the last couple of days whether the emotion of it could be channeled in a positive way, whether it might just be a bit too much for everybody, and we sort of become overwhelmed. And I think those fears were kind of put to bed last night by just, as Dan says, how at it we were, and just the amount of quality that was on show last night as well. Like, they aren't going to shirk under this responsibility of delivering for this manager, these players, are they?
No. But I feel like we are different in the sense that we are an emotional club, an emotional team, and you kind of get on that like crest of a wave and you just ride it. And I think that's what's happened. I don't feel like Klopp coming out and saying what he said. You're going to have the initial reaction, especially from the fans, of like, can't believe he's leaving. What's going to happen and all that. But then that turns into, okay, well, let's just fucking win everything for him and let him have the send-off he deserves. And that's exactly what like the players are thinking. I mean, they want to win anyway. Of course they wanted to win. They were already playing great. We were top of the league. We'd gotten so far in all the cups. So it's not like a switch is being flicked and all of a sudden we're going to start doing this or we're going to start doing that. It's just, it maybe gives us like an extra 5% on top of what we already had. And especially with the crowd, it's going to give the crowd like even more like impetus and momentum going into these final months. But it's always going to be like mad anyway, because we're in a title race, and once you get past the turn of the year and you're in a title race, and then like you start getting like the lighter nights and you have a few midweek games at Anfield, and the atmosphere always just cranks up like more and more each week. So it's already like that now, but imagine what it's going to be like. You get to May and we're still top of the league, and it's going to be like something we've never experienced before. But I don't think there's any danger of Klopp's announcements derailing anything. I think if anything, it's going to give us a little bit of an extra push. And, going back to what Dan said before, I don't think that's a reason for why it was announced when it was, but I think it's a knock-on effect from it, and it'll be like a little bonus. I think the timing of it purely, it had to be announced at some point. And I reckon they looked at the fixtures and thought, okay, well, before Norwich in the Cup's probably like the best time to do it. There's no good time to do it, but that's probably the best. And the reason why you've got to say something, it's not so much worrying about leaks, because they kept it quiet since November. Not even the players knew about it. So I don't know when he told his coaching staff, but I'd imagine he'll have told them pretty early on. But I think from like the club's point of view, you've got to be planning. You've got to be not even just planning Klopp's replacement, but that's part of it. But it's transfers as well. It's like, you've got to have things in place, and new contracts for players. You can't do any of that while like you're sort of keeping that under wraps about Klopp. Like Klopp said himself, we could have done contracts with players, and then so like they signed the contract, and then it's like, oh, by the way, Jurgen's leaving, and the player's like, well, hang on a minute, I wasn't told any of this like before. I've just committed for the next 4 years. So you've got to, at some point, you've got to announce it. You cannot, like, just keep that under wraps. And especially if you start talking to agents of other managers and stuff, sounding people out. Once, like, an agent gets wind of that, straight on the blower to fucking Ornstein or whoever. And then there you go, there's your exclusive. Liverpool looking to replace Klopp, he's gone. So you need to control it yourself, and I think that's why they put it out when they did. But I do think we'll benefit from it in terms of just getting that extra little push. And that might be the difference, because you're going up against City. We've seen what happens, you're just matching them, like, win for win, and then at the end of the season you find out, like, you're a point behind them. It's like, maybe this is the push that gets us, like, a point ahead of them at the end of the season or whatever. I don't think it can hurt. I think it can only help.
No, sort of like in the way that we channeled the heartbreak of sort of not doing it. I think it was in 2019, and then we just won 26 out of 27 and drew the other one, and just went on that incredible run. But speaking of going on those incredible runs, Dan, and it's good to hear you sounding so good as well. Now you got a brand new microphone. I'm sure the listeners are going to be pleased with that.
It doesn't sound like he's in a tumble dryer anymore.
Yeah, right. But as a club, we often look at January with some trepidation. It hasn't been as kind to us as it could have been, and we haven't sort of covered ourselves in glory, whether it be through injuries and absentees. And we looked at this month without Endo and specifically Mo, and we've had 3 Premier League games. We've scored 4 in each of them. We've won all of them. We scored 4. Was it 4 or 5? Was it in the cup on Sunday? Was it 5?
5, yeah.
5 in the cup on Sunday. We're through to the League Cup final, so it's gone absolutely perfectly. And we'll get onto the performance in a sec, because I really do want to focus on that, because it was really telling, brilliant performance. But to do what we've done in the last few weeks without Mo really sort of sets us in good stead, really, knowing that we've got him to come back, but also knowing that we can pretty much go and do what we want without him.
Yeah, it's been really good to see other players step up in Mo's absence as well. I know it's easy to point the finger at Darwin because he had that long run without scoring, but he started to score more frequently. You've got Curtis, who's chipping in with goals seemingly fairly regular. Soboslai scored yesterday, and Jota the Slaughter is in tip-top form at the moment. We've kind of shared the goals out that we missed with Mo, and it's been probably the best January I can remember, because, as you say, it's not a month we tend to fare too well in, and it would have been easy to be like, get to today and it's like, oh, for God's sake, we've missed Endo, we've missed Salah, and we've dropped points here and we've dropped points there, and it's not been the case. Obviously, a low volume of league games has contributed to that, but we've had 4 cup games and we've come out unscathed in all of those in terms of getting through. So yeah, perfect month. Really good to see the goals getting moved around as well, and I think we might come on to Curtis and later on this podcast, but he's really stepped up in January, and I think the importance that Jota has to this team is highlighted just by that last month. When he went down after that penalty yesterday, I was like, oh no, get up, we need you. Get back to your feet, please, and thankfully he did. So yeah, that's been the pleasing thing for me about January. It's been that everyone has kind of stepped up to the plate in Salah's absence. Obviously, Salah is our talisman, our top goal scorer, and the biggest threat that we have. And it's been in his absence, everyone's stepped up and we've kind of spread the goals around a bit.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Dave, moving on to specifically about last night now. When we saw the team announced, we saw that the fullbacks had kept their places. In your opinion, was that sort of a reward for their good performances? We speculated a lot about what would happen when the 2 lads returned from injury. Was that a reward for their good performances, or do you think a case of being just a little cautious with Robbo and Trent? Yeah,
it's both, isn't it, really? I was a little bit surprised. I thought at least one of them would have come in and started. Seeing them both still on the bench, a little bit surprising. It's like a big vote of confidence. Not so much in Joe Gomez. We know what Joe Gomez is. He's experienced. He's been around. But to keep Conor Bradley in when the easy thing to do is to just, rush Trent back in. Not even rush him back in. He was only out a couple of weeks and he's been back in training. Trent could start. It's not like we're having to be careful with him and, ease him back in. He could start now if he needed to, but he didn't need to. That was the thing. Conor Bradley's been that good. And that's even before last night. I mean, now I think we're seeing him in an even different light. Like, he's gone from looking like, he's a good lad, he can play in this team, to fucking hell, where's the ceiling for him? He could be incredible. So we didn't need to make that decision about getting Trent back in now. I think the interesting thing is going to be Sunday, and I think they'll probably both come back in. I wouldn't put money on it, but I suspect that's what will happen. But it's more just to do with the fact that we're playing 4 days later, and you've got to make changes to keep everybody fresh, and so I think they'll probably come back in. But it's purely about that. It's nothing to do with we need to get them back in the team as soon as we can, because we could carry on without them and we'd be fine. That's incredible to say that, but it is. Last night we're 3-0 up. So Chelsea have had the run around, and the 3-0 down, it could easily have been much worse. And then we're bringing Trent and Robbo on at fullbacks. What must they be thinking? It's we've just brought on the best fullback pair in the world over the last 5 years or whatever. We're 3-0 up without them, and then we're just bringing them on for the last 20-25 minutes. It just shows how strong we are at the moment. That there's no Mo, there's no Trent, there's no Robbo. 3 really important. We went to Arsenal without Van Dijk and won in the cup. Mo didn't play in that game either. So we've been without all of these big players at some point. Is there any player now who, Alisson probably, but anyone else who you think if you took him out we'd be in trouble? I think you can take anyone out, and okay, you're not replacing them like for like. Nobody's at Virgil's level. Although saying that, Konate's not far off it now. Konate is a proper fucking. He's
consistently
genuinely
every
star
fucking
player.
week.
Yeah, and it goes under the radar to some extent. Not so much with our fans. Everyone knows he's really good, but I go back to said it the other week about all the Saliba hype. And I'm not knocking Saliba, he's clearly one of the best defenders in the league. But there's a reason he doesn't play for France, and that reason is Konate. But it just feels like a lot of people, because I wouldn't go as far as to say he's in Van Dijk's shadow, but if you're playing next to Van Dijk, most of the eyes are going to be on Van Dijk as, look, he's the man. And then he's Robin to Batman, isn't he, Konate? When really, we've actually just got 2 Batmen in defence. It's not Batman and Robin, it's Batman and Batman. But so I don't even know where I was going with that. I was saying you can take anyone out of the team, you put someone else in, and we'll keep on rolling. Alisson would be the only one who I'd have to, I'd be a little bit more concerned about, but not as a one-off. If he missed one game, we've seen he's missed one game, we'd be fine. We've got to the League Cup final, where we've got to the knockout stages of the Europa League, and Alisson's not played in any of them games, so it's not like the wheels come off if he's not there, and that just shows how strong it is. It's whoever comes out, there's someone who'll come in and just do a really good job for us, and keeps the rig on the road.
Dan, we started the game like the proverbial Vince McMahon House of Fire. We can't even mention Vince anymore. No, let's not talk about Vince
anymore.
Damn it, pal!
He's fucking ruined it for me now. With me walking to the pod, I can't even post that anymore. It's
it's a whole different context now. Are you totally going to shit on somebody's head? Me walking to the pod.
Cheers, Vince. You've just ruined my favourite fucking GIF.
All you need now is some scandals to come out about Van Damme, and your GIF library is completely ruined. But Dan, we started the game so well, and it was a surprise in many respects that it took us 22 minutes to get on the score sheet. Darwin had some good efforts, hit the woodwork once or twice, ended up being 4, which is remarkable, really, but consistent. So we take the lead, and I always think of you when this happens, but it was the archetypal Jota goal in that he's a wibbly, bibbly, bobbly football.
Me and John
And,
both thought of that as well. We both said it.
And he buries it, at the end of it, like clinical finish by him. Terrible defending from Chelsea, I thought, but he worms his way through, and just the typical Jota goal, really.
Yeah, as someone once said, Chris, tell me when I'm telling lies when it comes to Jota. What a goal scorer he is, but he's got that ability. He is a bibbly bobbly player. He's just got the ability to just put his head down and just barge his way through a defence. So obviously he's got the skill as well. We've seen him slalom his way through in similar fashion before, but this one was a Milan Barros head down kind of job, and he just forced his way through. No doubt that he was going to score when it bounced off his chest and he put it away. When the goal went in, my initial reaction was to kind of scratch my head and think, is there a handball in there? And you can understand why there was an appeal and why it was checked, because any contact with the hand in this era of VAR needs to be checked. But thankfully it hit him on his chest. I think that the thing with Jota is his movements has always been really good, but his game intelligence has improved, and he's great at getting himself between the man and the ball and buying. I just love him. I absolutely love him. I think as a footballer, I'm starting to prefer him to Salah, to be honest. Just my personal opinion. I just buzz off him, and I think he's a colossal shithouse as well, which just endears him to me as well. He's very good at buying fouls. He's got no qualms about going down if there's contact and all that kind of stuff that you need from a centre forward in this game, where people don't get rewarded for staying on the feet. They only get rewarded if they go down. But as he was threatening before that, wasn't he? You always felt like he was going to get at least one chance in the game, and obviously when it came his way, he was never going to miss. But I did kind of smile to myself, and obviously I got your tweet at half-time as well, using the new and improved LFC fan Wi-Fi.
It's great now, isn't it?
It does even.
I was so shocked the other month when it worked.
Yeah, it even works outside the cop, apart from for everyone apart from poor Paul, who can never seem to get on.
Just Dan, we got to say about Paul last night.
God.
So we're outside the ground, and what time was it? It was like 7:30, and Paul goes, "Right, boys, I'm going in." So we went in, and we just assumed, oh, Paul just needs a piss, like, his old weak ass bladder, like he always has to go in early. And then about 10 minutes later, there's a voice message in the chat, Paul like fucking ranting because he didn't know the kickoff time. He didn't know it was 8:15 kickoff.
Yeah, why would you though? You know what I mean? Like it's a silly kickoff time. It didn't exist until this weird sort of.
Well, ironically enough, I didn't. I was walking up and John was like, "Oh, this bloody kickoff time, this 8:15 kickoff time, it proper adds time onto you." Then I was like, "It's 8:15," and John was like, "Yeah, I thought it was 8 o'clock as well." Paul just disappeared, and I didn't even try and shake his hand this time, Dave.
No, because he left them hanging last. He left you hanging last time.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but too long didn't listen. Too long didn't listen, Chris. I love Diogo Jota.
Another quick thing about before the game as well. I've got to mention this. So the chippy was open. John had to go at them. John saying to the fella, he was like, "Hey, you were closed the other week for 2 games," and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know." And John went, "Well, they're the only 2 games this season that we haven't won." And the fella's like looking at him, and John's like, "So make sure you stay open for the rest of the season. We've got a title to win here." And he's like, "No, we will. We'll be open every game now." And then John turns to me and he's like, "I've told him it's all right."
And we still have no reason why it was closed.
And then what happens? We win 4-1. So, Chippy's open.
I did instruct John to make sure that this does not occur again.
Luca Brazzi. I thought about the Chippy the other day and whether it was going to be open tonight. And then I saw the team news before the Arsenal Forest game yesterday, and one of the headlines was Rice to be assessed, and I thought, oh shit, that's why the Lucky Star's been closed for the last few weeks. You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary, and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, Dave, great goal to give us the lead, and from that point on, we never really looked back. And Jota was instrumental in a lot of the other stuff we did that half as well. We took a 2-0 lead, and just before we came on air, we were talking about Bradley's goal. Now's as good a time as any to get into what a spectacular moment that was. But it almost wasn't because of the VAR check. But Jota's super sort of clever, as Dan would say, shithousery to manifest that space and make it look like it was a coming together, I thought was beautiful.
Pick and roll. That's what it was.
Yeah,
it was. Just a pick and roll, wasn't it? Well, no, Jota, I think just on the first goal, it's deliberate, that he does that. I'm not saying he's thought, I'm going to play it off the defender and get a ricochet. It's not that. But the difference, say, if that's Bobby Firmino's using his magic feet and the defenders are not getting a touch, he's going to just shift it from one foot to the other, slalom between them and score, which we've seen him do against Arsenal. Jota's different. He's not got those magic feet, but he knows how to just get by people, and it might take a little ricochet here and there, but he's just... he was never going through the two of them cleanly. There's two defenders that you're not going through completely cleanly, but it doesn't matter. And it's a little bit of luck in that it could have hit his arm and not his chest. Thankfully it didn't. But that's Jota. It's not lucky. It's just how he plays. It's like percentages. There's a good chance he's going to bundle his way through, so he does it. But the VAR thing applies on both goals really, because the first one I didn't celebrate it. I sort of did. I jumped up. And then, immediately I said to John, I went, that could be handball. I'm not saying it was, because it's down the other end. I don't know if it's hit his arm or not. But I do know that those kind of situations, in the past, you knew, if the ref doesn't give it, it's a goal, it's fine. And referees are never going to give handball for that, because if it did hit his arm, it's too hard to see. It's accidental. It's never going to be given. But with this shitty fucking VAR thing that we've got now, where any slightest brush against an attacker's arm or hand, even if it's totally unintentional, the goal immediately gets disallowed. So you can't celebrate that goal, because you do know there's going to be a check, and you can't tell if it is his arm. And when I watched the highlights when I got in, I don't know if it was TNT or if it was something else that I was watching. I just found something on YouTube and I was watching it, and they said that the word that come down from VAR was that it hit both Jota and the defender on the arm, so it wasn't given. It didn't fucking hit Jota on the arm at all. It just bounced up and hit him right in the middle of the chest. So I don't even know what they were talking about there. I've watched loads of angles of it, and not one of them shows that it hit his arm, because if it did, it doesn't matter if it hits the defender on the arm as well. If it would have hit his arm, they'd have disallowed it. And then the second goal, I did celebrate that, because I didn't think for a second there was going to be a check on that, because I seen Jota go down and the defender go down, and my first thought there is they've both been running, there's a collision, Jota's trying to run through, defender's trying to run back, and it's just one of them things. Never thought for a second there'd be a check. So I'm celebrating the goal like mad. It was really, I'm struggling to think of a goal like that was as enjoyable as that in a long time. The kid just running through and finishing like that. It was just so good, such a great moment. And then it comes up VAR check, and it just sucks the fucking air out the building, and it's horrible. It's that's why it needs fucking off, because even though that was a great moment, it was ruined. So then you're looking at Paul Tierney and you're just waiting to see if he's going to point to the check's clear, point to the centre circle, and then you can celebrate. But the moment's gone then. And John turns to me when the goal gets given, and he went, doesn't even matter now, they fucking ruined it. And I'm like, yeah, because we were on such a high, it was such a great moment, and then immediately it's the balloons popped, because you're looking for something. And thankfully, it didn't get disallowed, because if you wanted to be a twat about it, you could have disallowed that. Because it's a subjective call. If you wanted to disallow it, you could. And all night, I may as well talk about Paul Tierney now, actually, because I've been his biggest critic. I can't stand the fella. I think he's deliberately fucked us over time and time again. Last night, if he wanted to fuck us over, he had plenty of opportunities where he could. Because people talking about like the VAR on different decisions and all that, but it's the one consistent thing about it is they very, very rarely get involved in penalties. If a ref gives something or doesn't give something, unless it's like the most clear like decision you'll ever see, and even then we've seen it that they don't get involved. Generally speaking, on penalties, they just stick with what the referee's given. So from his point of view, the Jota penalty is a clear foul. He can see that because he's stamped on his top of his foot, bottom of his ankle. It's a clear foul, easy decision to make. The two Chelsea penalties that he could have given, if he wanted to screw us over, he could easily have given them, even though the first one's not a pen.
Especially the first one.
Yeah, the first one isn't a pen for me, but you could give it if you wanted to, and there wouldn't be a massive uproar about it. And the second
one...
one...
wouldn't be overturned because there was contact.
Exactly, they don't overturn those things. That's what I'm saying. If he wanted to do it, he could. And the second one, I don't think he can see that clearly. It's not as obvious as the foul on Jota. When you're looking at a replay of it, you can see, okay, Virgil's kicked his foot. He's made a massive meal of it. But he has kicked his foot, and if you wanted to give that, you could. But I just think Tierney's just gone on what he can see, and he saw the Jota one, that's a clear foul. The second Virgil one, if he sees that clearly, he may well give it, but it's not easy to spot that. and the Conor Gallagher one, my take on that was Conor Gallagher just seen that Virgil was there, and he just sort of ran straight at him and then goes over his knee. But again, you can give it if you want to give it. And Tierney's performance, I feel like he had a really good game. It's easy to say that because things went in our favour for once. But even without the big decisions, I just thought overall he refereed the game well, which might be the first time I've ever said that about him.
Well, on that point, Dan, a friend of mine who supports Arsenal tweeted at half-time, and he said this game would probably be fairer if Kenny Dalglish himself was refereeing it. And I thought about interjecting and saying, hang on a minute, this guy, you're talking about like, say, this guy screwed us over like a million times in the last couple of years. And it's an ongoing thing. But you do, when you're watching your title rivals in action, you see decisions like you do. That's the natural course for us. If it was at Arsenal, we'd say the same thing. And he'd be like, hang on a minute. But I was thinking about this from the perspective of, we've all talked about how Klopp's decision might affect the players, the fans, like opposition rivals, and spur us on. But there's also the idea that it might sort of stop the ass fuckery from the officials, I think, in terms of... Because I don't think...
Well, because Klopp's got nothing to lose now, and he might fucking lamp Paul Tierney. You think he's scared?
No, I don't think he's going to lamp him, but I also think that Paul Tierney might sort of be conscious of the fact that, hang on, this guy's going. Like, maybe I shouldn't, like, fuck him over as hard as I have been, and maybe we will get the benefit of the doubt, because the narrative is clearly going to be focused on this. Liverpool, Klopp's last season, finishing with the title. I don't think one of them's going to be the person who gets looked at in the, like, what's his name, that Thomas, that Welsh referee that Everton are always going at, Clive Thomas. I don't think any of them are going to be wanting to be that guy who stopped that. So I think we might get a bit of a fairer crack of the whip. Obviously, you're the pod's resident referee analyst. So what do you reckon?
I hope you're right. Certainly, Paul Tierney is not top of my Christmas card list. It's definitely not.
Who is top of your Christmas card list?
Jota.
Well, in terms of referees, I'll Pierluigi Collina.
I'm just talking about in general, like.
Oh, who's generally top of my Christmas card list?
Yeah,
that's a very good question. Not Vince McMahon anymore, or ever, but.
Let it ruminate. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, I'll ruminate, but someone I would like to speak to is not actually real. So going back to Paul Tierney, I actually thought it was a normal performance from him yesterday, which is the kind of performance that he should give decisions for Liverpool when there are decisions that have been made. The problem is we're that used to him being the fucking McMahon Helmsley regime and fucking Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe as the assistant referees and Shane O'Mac as the fourth official and all. That's how it feels when it's the bald Mancunian generic creator wrestler character A referees that we have. Last night, I think the Mank Mafia, yeah, he kind of like Dave said, some decisions could have gone the other way. I think what might have helped is Chelsea really lost the shit last night. They had a spell like between the penalty, between going 2-0 down and that penalty being awarded. They lost the plot. They were properly indisciplined, and I thought Enzo Fernandez was going to get sent off. Had half time not arrived when it did, I think he would have. In fact,
I was wanting Caicedo to get sent off. I could have seen that happening, but they
yeah, and that would have been one for the ages, wouldn't it? The player who turned us down and cost Chelsea an extra 20 million walking down the tunnel, getting jeered off. Yeah, that would have been something. But for me, Chris, like, and don't get me, it wasn't a perfect performance at all. I was screaming at him to get out of the way because it felt like he was man marking Curtis Jones at some points in that game.
Yeah.
Properly in the way, and that's a pet hate of mine, and allowing rolling balls as well. But I'm getting really, really pedantic now, aren't I? But yeah, for me, and I think it's Brownie who said this in our chat, like, it's just a normal performance. Like, he's just giving decisions as he's seeing them, whereas in other games, it's felt very much like we're not getting even 90-10 decisions or even 100% decisions. We're not getting them when it's him. And last night we got the two Chelsea penalties. The first one for me wasn't the one on Gallagher. The second one on Van Dijk. If it was the other way around, I'd be quite pissed off about it, to be honest. Yeah, I thought that was probably a penalty. And at 3-1 as well, when it happened, that would have been a jittery few moments, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
possibly. So, yeah, we got a bit of luck with that one. But for me, he's not getting any credit from me. Number one, I don't give credit to referees. They're just doing the job. And number two, it's just a normal performance.
Chris Rock, settle down.
Well, I don't want to get spat by Will Smith. But like with Tierney, no, it was just a normal performance. It's just he gave decisions that he should have, and I agree with what you said, David. Like, he could have screwed us over if he wanted to. Like, some of the decisions were a little bit subjective, but the penalty for that we got is not even debatable. It's a foul. End of story. You've boosted him on the ankle. Penalty. And VAR doesn't overturn penalties very often, as you say. Was it 2? We were talking before, but was it 2 all season?
I think it's 2 all. I read somewhere a couple of weeks ago.
And one of them was us, Crystal Palace away, wasn't it?
Yeah, and more so. We've seen some absolutely crazy ones that have been given, and because the referee's given it, they've just let it go. Like, there was the Sheffield United one last week with the goalkeeper, West Ham. Sheffield United, West Ham. That was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. They don't Bernie just turned his back stuff on the goal.
Yeah, it seems to me
they are consistent with that. Like, consistently shit, but consistent in, like, not wanting to get involved in just letting, like, referees just make the decisions.
It feels like we've had a mid-season rule change with contact on the goalkeeper, doesn't it? Like, there was that one. There was that ridiculous one that Luton got at Burnley when their lads just took a running jump at James Trafford and the balls come loose, and Crystal Palace got screwed over against Arsenal, I thought, as well. Normally, if there's contact with the goalkeeper, it's...
What was our one, Dan, when Alisson got... There was a goal disallowed because Alisson got, like...
City
there was contact on him.
It was City away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was that was 1-0 at the time as well, and their fans are squawking about it like they've had any terrible decisions to contend with over the last 4 or 5 years.
That was the right decision, but given the way, like, other decisions have gone, with goalkeepers not getting, like, protection and stuff.
Well, that's it. If that's now, if that game was played like to this week, that goal would be awarded probably. It would
Depends
probably
on the ref, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It was my boy Chris Cavana, wasn't it, that day?
For me, I'm watching, like, the replays back of that Crystal Palace game and the Luton game, thinking, yeah, all right, whatever, lads, that's going to be a free kick, and then the goal gets given. It's like, how on earth can we go from one extreme to another? So that's Howard Webb and his mid-season rule changes. The interpretation of that rule has changed, because as far as I was aware, you touch the goalkeeper and it's a free kick.
Yeah.
for better or
I
worse.
just hope Chris is right about, you know, now that Klopp said he's going, maybe referees don't want to be the one to like fuck him over, especially ones who've been doing it like for so long.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
if
the way
Paul
I see it.
Tierney's actually given us like a fair crack of the whip, then there's hope yet, isn't there?
Get Jeff Winter back, he'll sort it out.
Oh God.
Jeff the ref.
Given that decision had been given, I thought Jota was smart again in that he stayed down long enough through the VAR check, like just to emphasise the point that he had been kicked and it really fucking hurt. In case you were trying to turn that over, but Darwin steps up to take the pen, Dave.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I was kind of like, well, probably I'd rather McAllister or Szoboszlai, whatever. But you looked at how Darwin started the game. He deserved a goal. He was absolutely irresistible. I thought it was probably his best overall, one of his best overall performances from us. Just absolutely electric. And he seemed unstoppable unless you're like a 24-foot by 8-foot white post. So, you know, and he stepped up to take the pen, and I thought, like, you know, okay, get him his goal, but again, he sends the keeper the wrong way and hits the fucking post. What are you thinking at that moment?
I was just devastated. I didn't want him to take it because it's too stressful for me. I turned me back on it. I was because I knew he was going to take it. You know, when McAllister had the ball, I knew that Darwin was taking the penalty because that's what we do now. Like, someone picks up the ball and the other team's not sure who's taking the penalty. And especially in this situation where, because Mo's not there, no one really knows for certain. And a lot of people would have thought, oh, it'll be McAllister. So McAllister actually picks the ball up. And a lot of people probably thought, oh, McAllister's taking it. But I knew, because McAllister had the ball, he was not taking it and it was somebody else. So I'm like, well, it's got to be Darwin then, you know, based on like the penalty records that players have got. Plus, they must have been doing stuff in training and making a decision based on that as well. So I was just at this sinking feeling because it's not worth it for me. The benefit of him scoring is not worth the stress of, like, if he doesn't. I'd rather not go through that. Let someone else take it. And like, I couldn't watch. I turned me back on it. I was like, I'm just going to do what Klopp does. And then it got the better of me, and I just kind of looked over my shoulder and I watched it, and I seen him at the post. And
yeah, because those goals at Anfield are so rare that you actually do want to see them go in when they do happen.
Oi. I just don't want to, penalties do nothing for me. You're just padding your stats with pens. So he doesn't need penalties. Let someone else take the penalties, and let's just avoid all of that. But yeah, so I'd have Macher on pens, and it's not because Darwin's just missed one. I've said it before on here. I'd have Macher on them anyway. But Darwin's got a great penalty record, and even that, it's like you're just being too precise. It's a really good penalty, almost, but you don't need to be right in the corner. It's like, as you say, keeper had gone the wrong way. It's just, I'm gutted, and he was gutted. And I tell you what, for like the next, it was right before half time, but there's about 5 minutes, and he got booked for like stupidly sticking his foot out and stopping a free kick, and then he tried like a speculative shot that he should never have been shooting from, and it got blocked. And Chelsea had a breakaway, and I'm like, oh my God, please don't score it, because it had impacted him. And Klopp said as well, like, he was really upset at half time. He said you could see he was really down because he'd missed the penalty. And so, like, the second half started, like, you know, I think the booking was at the start of the second half, wasn't it? It was down at the Kop end, like he blocked the free kick. Like the first 5 minutes or so of the second half, it was still affecting him, and then he shrugged it off and he was fine the rest of the game. And that's the great thing about him. It's like, no matter how many fucking setbacks he has and how many times like things don't go his way, he just dusts himself off and just gets on with it, and then he ends up getting an assist. But fucking 4 times in that game, I don't even know what to say. It's like, but I'm pissed off when like people are going on about like shit finishing and stuff. You're literally talking fucking inches here. If he's putting it in the Kop, then fair enough. But this is it's bad luck. It's fucking freakish. The penalty, okay, I'll give you that. You know, he's missed the penalty. The fact that it's hit the post, not really here or there. But these chances that are hitting the woodwork, it's like, oh my God, how long is this going to go on for? But it's interesting, like I seen Baskin put something on Twitter today, which was really good actually. He dug out like a quote from 2013, in the 2013 season, we hit the post 33 times in that season. And Suarez said, there's an element of luck. It would be more worrying if chances were not being created. Maybe next season, all the ones that hit the post and come out may hit the post and go in. Like, you know, and it's like such fine margins. But 33 times in that season, Darwin's had 12 on his own this year. The next is 4, you know, throughout the league. Like, the next closest is 4. And of the 12, there's a couple which are on him. You know, like the open goal when he went round the keeper and it's the post. Like, that's not always unlucky, he's at the post. That's ridiculous. You've got to score. Most of the others, it's like, it's unlucky. You're talking inches. So frustrating.
But also he's got that header, and it's in the second half, and it's fucking like, there's no need to be hitting. Just put it in the fucking net, dude. Like, come on.
Header,
like that's an absolute fucking sitter, that header.
It's not a sitter. It's like
it's
Dave. A thumping header, and he's at the bar, and it's like, should he score? Yeah. Is it like one of those where it's harder to miss than to score? No, it's not. It's harder to score than to miss, and he should score, but he's a fraction away from scoring again, and it's just how things are going. And like, that was one of the first times after that I did the bar. I was watching him as like the play went down the other end, and he was running back, and like he threw his arms up, and it was like as if to say, you know, why the fuck does this keep happening? And it was the first time when he really showed that it was maybe getting to him a bit, but then he just knuckled down, he just carried on, and he had the assist. And it's as you said, he was fucking brilliant. A brilliant performance, like totally unplayable, and hitting the woodwork 4 times is just, only he could do that. You know, if you'd said this season someone's going to hit the woodwork 4 times in a game, he is like by far and away the one who you'd pick. No question about it. I mean, I don't know how many he had last season, but he must have had like probably at least 8 last year, where he's at the woodwork as well. Like, it's uncanny.
He has like
over
twice
a 2-year
as many
period.
shots as anybody in the league as well.
Yeah,
so
he does.
Got,
But that's the funny thing, is like at the start of that game, I said to John, I think it was like 11 minutes in, and I went, Darwin's had 4 shots already, you know. And John worked it out, and he was like, he looked at the minutes and the shots, and he was like, he's on course for 27 shots if he keeps this pace up. I'm like, it's fucking unreal. And it's not like he's just taking pot shots from anywhere. These are like, you know, genuine like chances where like he's got a shooting opportunity. But it's just the runs in behind he was making. And the good thing last night, they were looking for those runs. Like, a lot of the time, like, we complain he's making runs and the ball's not coming, and then he's offside, or they're just not playing it. But it felt like when he was making runs last night, people were looking to play him in. Conor Bradley especially is always looking for that ball in behind, which we had that early on when the shot that, I think he tried to lob the keeper, and the keeper got back and saved it. See, that one, like, he could have blasted that. Like, he often does blast them. But that one just showed, like, he's not just a bland merchant. He seen the keeper and thought, oh, I can lob it over him. But the keeper was clever and was like, I see what you're going to do here. And he got back, and it was an easy save in the end. But that come from, like, I'm pretty sure that one came from, like, a Bradley pass in behind. Or was that the other one when he ran through and hit the shot and the keeper tipped it onto the bar?
No, it was Bradley, I think.
Was that Bradley as well? Or was that... See, so Bradley's looking for that pass, which is that's a good thing. Because
all the defenders were constantly last night, and they were all absolutely on point with more or less every single one of them. Like, Verge had a couple, Kanate had a couple, Bradley had a couple.
Yeah, but when you've got like that threat in behind, where he's just constantly running in behind, running the channels, it makes the other team defend in a different way, because they can't just push right up and squeeze the play, because they're terrified of that ball in behind. So they have to drop off a bit more.
You can tell he's been working on staying onside, you know, as well. Like, he wasn't offside at all last night, and there are 4 or 5 different opportunities.
There was one when, in that little spell after he missed the pen at the start of the second half.
Was there?
There was a little spell at the start of the second half where he got caught offside, he got booked for blocking like a free kick stupidly, and then he had like just a ridiculous shot that got blocked, and that all happened in like such a short space of time. And it was all to do with like him missing the penalty, and it just threw him off his stride for a little bit. But other than that, you know, just absolutely exceptional performance. I just love watching him, and like this is why I'm so protective of him, and it bothers me when people are like ripping into his finishing. It's because of things like last night. Like, if he'd been putting them chances like wide or over the bar and that, I feel like that's fair game to say, you know, that shit. That, but like when it's as close as that and it's hitting the bar, it's inches away from everyone talking about how great it is. And it also goes back to like when he scored 2 goals last week against Bournemouth, and then he scores against Norwich. He also hit the post in that game, by the way. So when he scores, people are like, see, that's what he should be doing. I'm like, that's what he is doing, but you're judging it on like the finest of margins. It's like a couple of inches either way. Like the one against Bournemouth when he side foots it goes just inside the post. Like a couple of inches the other side, and it's hitting the post and coming out again, and everyone's fucking slaughtering them. There's such fine margins that people are like, I'm saying everyone, and it's not everyone. You know, loads of people see it the same way I do. So it's not like it's me against the world. That's not what I'm saying. But there's enough people who are kicking off, and it's like I love Darwin like he's a member of my own family, and in fact I probably love him more than some members of my own family, because our Al is constantly taking swings at Darwin these days, and all I say, Al, don't make me choose between yous, because that's going to be a fight you're going to lose, okay? So just keep that in mind. And even my dad's pushing his luck at the moment. To be fair to my dad, he used to slaughter him. He doesn't anymore. He genuinely really likes him. But even my dad's been taken in with this, oh, he's good when he doesn't have time to think bullshit. Well, he had fucking loads of time to think about the penalty, and he didn't score that, so that just goes out the window, that whole argument. But yeah, I'll fucking defend him, and I'll keep defending him until I never have to defend him again, because everyone has come round and like seen the whole of the moon.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, your entire reputation is entirely staked on whether it does come good. So,
what reputation? I haven't got a reputation, but I'm fucking right on Darwin, I'll tell you that. I've never been more sure of anything.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Just one more thing. Basco had a fucking brilliant line on this as well. This is how I feel. He said, if Darwin Núñez can end his intense relationship with the woodwork, his detractors will crawl back into it. And I'm like, is right. That fucking nails it.
Oh, like Chris is really good for those type of lines. He's really clever with that kind of stuff. So Dan, we did go in at half time 2-0. It could have been 3. Was there a part of you that was a little bit concerned that we hadn't taken that opportunity to put the game to bed? You got the sense that 2-0 was great, and there was a really good chance that we were going to build on it. But gosh, it would have been nice to go in at 3.
Yeah, it was disappointing that I disappointed for Darwin as well, but we deserved to have been 3-0 up at half time.
It killed the atmosphere, didn't it, Dan?
It did,
the penalty, just after, like the aftermath of the penalty, it just killed the atmosphere for a bit.
And we didn't have the chance to kind of readjust after, because it was so close to half time. Yeah. You know, like it was a bit bitty until half time, and then I think with me, Chris, I'm a natural worrier when it comes to football.
Really?
I know you'd never guess, would you? So, and as I've often said before, 2-0 is my least favourite score. You know, like 2 goals in front. It's my least favourite score. It's where I feel my most vulnerable, to be honest. But I always had the feeling last night that we would be able to create more chances. But the way the second half started, that Mudryk should have scored. You know, he had a great chance and blazed it, and it's like, hang on a second, that's come from a counter attack. How's that happened? So for the first kind of 5 minutes, I was kind of like these worries were starting to manifest a little bit, and then the game settled back into the pattern of Liverpool have ball. Liverpool look like they're going to score at every opportunity. But yeah, it would have been nice to have been 3-0, because 3-0 up, and again after Istanbul, how can you even relax when you're 3-0 up? But you know, like 3-0 just kind of relaxes everything, and the moment we went 3-0 up, the kind of the game's done felt like it spread to the team a little bit after the substitutions. But the way the second half started, I was concerned for about 5 minutes, and then we just got back. We just wrestled control back, and it was Chelsea didn't have it again. They had another 5 minutes, but later in the game, I suspect we'll come to that in a bit. But asking me if I was worried at 2-0 up is a cert that yes, I would be.
Mm-hmm. Dan's worried at 5-0 up. He's permanently worried.
Well, it's the same with the
You're like my
transfers,
mum, Dan. She's the same.
If we've got like 4 forwards, I'd prefer 5 in case one gets injured. If we're 4-0 up, I'd prefer to be 5-0 up, because that's an extra goal they need to score to peg us back.
Fair enough. And Dan, you mentioned the third goal settling us down. Bradley again, he kind of finds that he's been hugging that touchline a little bit when he creeps forward, and he finds that space quite a lot, and like it was just brilliant wing play. Really, he just he takes it down, brings it into the space, beats his man, and puts in an absolutely irresistible cross in, like dead flat.
Yeah.
Like all Dom really had to do was get his head on it, and he did with aplomb. And yeah, he's walking away with another assist. Soboslai said after the game, it was like, I think it's the first header of his entire career that he scored. But
which is a disgrace because he's like 6'2". There's no excuse for that.
But service like that, I mean, come on, that was just unbelievable.
It was like that's where I sit, obviously. So I had a great view of that. But it was just from the second he got the ball there, you knew he was just going to do something positive. He wasn't just going to stop and like pass it back. It's like, okay, there's a chance here for me to just drive at him. I'm going. But the cross is just like, as you said, it was like so flat. It wasn't like a high dipping cross. It was just perfect. Like the technique on that, just fantastic. But like, that's what I'm saying about when I don't know how it come across watching it on the telly, but like inside the ground, it felt like we were witnessing something really special. Like Conor Bradley last night, it was like everyone was talking about it. Like on the way out, you could hear people. All you could hear was like, "Oh, Bradley," and when you just like walking past and you hear different conversations. He was like the big talking point. But even in the ground, it was like I just kept looking at John. We were just looking at each other, going, "Oh my God, what are we watching here? This is just like so fucking special." And I don't know if we're going like, if we're going carried away in the moments and going overboard. But it'll be interesting to know like what were you thinking watch it on the telly, because you get like a different feel, from like when you're actually inside the stadium. That it's not always the same. So how did you see it? Watch it on the telly?
Jealous that I wasn't there with you all.
Yeah. But what were you thinking about Conor Bradley though? Were you like, oh my God, this is fucking...
For that reason, I wanted to be there seeing it for myself, because I mean, obviously the performance does translate, but like you say, everything that makes it special is all the things that you said, like the buzz around it, the fact that everybody's talking about it, the fact that you specifically for that third goal are 20 yards away from it. It's obviously it's much more satisfying to be witnessing in the ground, and you get a much more holistic view of the entire situation. But yeah, just equally as impressed, just not as enthralled, because the entire view is different, and you're seeing it as part of mostly one camera shot that's showing half the field at the time. So.
But you don't think that we're getting carried away?
No, I don't. Sorry, to answer your question, no, I don't think you're getting carried away. It was a really, really special performance.
Oh, good. You know what I think we need to talk about as well? Alexis McAllister. Like, I just thought, like, there's very little that he did in that game that'll show up on any kind of, like, highlight reel, compilation package, but everything he did in that game was what he needed to do. He was fucking fantastic. Conor Bradley's like the start of the show. It's the easiest man of the match decision you'll ever make. Although, as soon as like you log into the chat after the game, here's fucking Mr. Contrary, Stu Monty, Jota's man of the match there tonight. I'm like, oh, I thought this was like one of those unanimous things where like literally everybody would be like, yeah, Conor Bradley definitely man of the match. But no, good.
It can't be unanimous if Stu's involved, surely.
But it was to be fair, it was unanimous with everybody else. It was just him. But like McAllister, I mean, I think like early in the season and. His statistics were good, and like people were using that to justify like why he's playing where he is, and I can see, okay, yeah, his stats are good and he is doing a lot of good things, but the eye test, it just didn't look right. He always looked like he was about to get a yellow card and like possibly a second one. Now you're watching him and that side of the game is phenomenal. We all know like he's great on the ball and like he doesn't give it away and he's a progressive passer, all of that stuff. But the actual defensive side of it, like last night he was making blocks and tackles all over the place, getting his foot in, constantly just harassing people. And I think like he's really come on in that side of the game. He was out injured for a bit, and that's when Endo came in, and Endo looked great, didn't he? I just wonder if McAllister, because Curtis said when he was out, he was watching and he's like, okay, this is what I need to be doing. I need to be working on this. I just wondered if while Alexis has been out, he's looked at certain things that Endo's done, more so off the ball than anything else, just being like a pain in the arse, just constantly there, getting a foot in and just making a nuisance of yourself. I wonder if he's just looked at that and he's thought, that's where I need to get a bit better. Because since he's come back, he's been fucking brilliant at that. And I thought last night, if Conor Bradley hadn't have played the way he had, Alexis would have been like the standout player for me. I just thought he was absolutely sensational.
Well, it's not to say he hadn't already bought into it, Dan, and it was just a case of him getting used to playing in that position. But sort of... We've been saying for months about, I can't wait till we get this 6 in and so we can move Alexis into his more natural position.
Not going to happen.
I think he's bought into the role now and he's excelling in it. And you look at who he was up against last night, just as a comparison, in terms of two players that cost £250 million combined. One of them was, the biggest maybe the second biggest disappointment after Bellingham, but we knew that was coming. But the biggest disappointment of the summer was missing out on Caicedo. You look at those two and just how fucking outmatched they were last night by a guy who cost 40 mil and doesn't play in that position until this season.
Yeah, McAllister was very, very, very good last night. I was a bit, I don't like to use the word underwhelmed, but I was for the first kind of 2 or 3 months of the season thinking that this guy's just filling a role in at 6. But I think the injury break seems to have done him good. He seems to have come back a lot more invested in his position, and last night he was so quietly effective. Last night, like Dave said, it's not going to show up on any highlight reel, but he was hoovering up possession. He's so good at beating the lines with a pass, and he always seems to just hit it perfect, like kind of power on his pass. He just seems to know how to take 3 or 4 players out of the game, dissecting the whole midfield. And I think, as you just said, Chris, the best thing about it was last night he was up against £250,000 worth of footballers, one of who we badly wanted.
£250 million.
Sorry, billion, sorry, yes. I can't add up. I'm just a humble person from St Helens.
90.
You should get a job at Everton, Dan.
I know, yeah. Creative accounting, yeah. Or Man City as well, even.
Sorry, lads, we didn't cheat. We're just really shit at maths.
Yeah, well, thanks. I've got to thank Mr. Burke for helping me to get a C at maths, because I'm not very good at maths. I'm not strong. Not one of my strong points, as you can probably tell by the fact that I can't tell the difference between billion and million.
I got a D, if it makes you feel any better, Dan.
Not really.
I also got an E for English and ended up like writing for a living, so it just shows you I was just such a lazy bastard in school.
I didn't get on the journalism course initially when I applied for it at Liverpool John Moores, and didn't hold me back. Perhaps that E was what catapulted you to the success that you're now experiencing today.
Well, I was just about to say, you took a long time for your trauma from being dropped from the primary school football team, Dave. That was the reason.
Ended my footy career, didn't it, Mr. Gerrard, the fucking bastard.
Not the only example of Gerrard's being an absolute knobhead.
Yeah. He's probably teaching in Saudi Arabia now, the twat.
Yeah.
But going back to McAllister, he looks like he might be the answer at 6 after all, and having him and Endor to rotate between will be key. But his kind of vision and his range of passing is exquisite. There's a couple of times where I was like, oh my god, what a ball, when he just cut 3 or 4 people out. It's fantastic to watch when you've got someone who has that kind of ability to look up and see the bigger picture ahead of him and then just go ping straight to the shoelace. It's lovely to watch. He's a really, really gifted player, and I think he's fully up to speed now, and I think he gets what he needs to do. And having someone at 6 who can control the game like he does, and kind of like pick balls out, is just it's such a valuable weapon. The way Fabinho used to be able to do it, kind of like the raking balls. But with McAllister's range of passing is unbelievable. He is a very, very gifted player. I'm really, really pleased that he seems to have settled into the team as well. Just going back to Conor Bradley as well, if I may, for 1 second. I've not really had a chance to talk about him. I knew he was a good player.
Tell our listeners, Dan, about your story, your link to
Yeah,
him.
last season at Bolton, my son Jack actually presented Conor Bradley with his Player of the Season award.
No way.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and I was talking to Jack before it, and I actually said to him, "Look, don't mention Liverpool. He's a Bolton player. He's got this award at Bolton, so stick to Bolton." And he was like, "Okay." But yes, Jack, my son presented Conor
And then
Bradley with
Jack
his
goes,
Player of the
"When are you
Award.
taking Trent's place, lad?"
Yeah. What do you think about the inverted fullback, Connor? But yeah, no, that is the story. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it's a pretty funny thing, really. That my lad presented him with his Player of the Season award last season, so I was well aware of his antics in League One last season. Hopefully, Calvin Ramsey will have a
Yeah,
similar
I was thinking that.
loan spell there.
Hopefully he does well. I seen a tweet from a Bolton fan account. Someone retweeted it like during the game last night or after the game, whatever. And he said like, now everyone knows why like he was getting man marked by two opponents in League One last season. So like when Bolton were playing, other teams must have just been okay. We've just got to stop Conor Bradley because that he was saying like they had like two players on him all the time. He was that good.
Man, Dan, that's good. That's amazing for Jack. Hopefully, like, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here. Like last night, I said he was better than George Best. So let's keep it in perspective. But in years to come, that can be like a story that, like, when Jack takes over from you on TLW Pod, like he'll be able to tell that for himself.
Maybe, yeah.
Next season, let's get it. Let's make it.
Yeah. I'm going to get mutually consented.
All right, yeah. So I guess the thing is with McAllister, Dave, is that he took yet another knock on the knee, which feels like it's happened about 4 or 5 times in the last couple of months, and so we just got to hope he's okay for Sunday now.
He's just a proper little footballer, and these knocks on the knee is because he doesn't shake. There's a challenge. He goes into it like he's not some little fancy Dan number 10 footballer. He's just a proper player. He's like he's proper South American, isn't he? But yeah, I worry about that because sometimes they take a good few days to recover from. So it'd be interesting to see if he's okay for for Sunday or not. If he's not, then I'm probably playing Trent in midfield.
It surely can't be that serious though, because we were
had no
4-1
subs
up.
left though, Dan.
Yeah, I know, but we're 4-1 up with like just injury time left, pretty much. I don't think we're sending him back on if there's a problem. I think he's perfectly fine.
What I mean though is like those kinds of injuries, it's kind of like a dead leg as well, where it's not till the next day when it really flares up on you. You can get through it at the time, and it gets worse. So that would be the worry that like maybe he's got like bruising or something and stiffness on it today, and so yeah, we just have to see how he is for Sunday. But if he doesn't make it, then that maybe makes your decision for Trent goes into midfield.
And we do get the fourth because Chelsea get one back, don't they? And it's shortly after the subs, and they do have a little spell where if you think, oh fucking hell, let's just ensure that they don't spawn a second, and it's a nervy finish. I'm a little bit like you in that respect, Dan. I'm always kind of looking for the worst that can happen rather than the best in those situations. But Nunez gets his reward in the end, not through a goal, but through for a nice assist for Diaz. I thought Diaz had a really good game last night, Dave, and he's still not, I don't think, where he was when he started the season. The season before last, but we're starting to see some consistency come back to him. I think he's having more good performances again now, and he's having positive impacts on the game. Gets his name on the score sheet tonight, which can only help as well.
Like I think John made a really good point about Diaz. Like I think the word he used just sums it up perfectly. Like his performance was good. It wasn't fantastic. There's still times when like he's a little bit sloppy or whatever. But the one thing now, like that John was saying, he said like he's got his dynamism back. Like regardless of how he's playing, he looks like he's dynamic again. Whereas he didn't. He was just a little bit ponderous and not really committing people and that. Whereas now he gets it and he's got that zip about him and he's like wanting to make things happen and he's positive and that. And I think that's been the biggest difference in him the last few weeks. He's got that back. regardless of whether like the end product's there or not, he looks like a completely different player. He looks like his old self again. And he's like sneakily contributed 8 goals as well. You know, it's not like he's not scoring. So yeah, he's doing well, and I think him starting to look like himself again it's really like, I know he's not playing in Mo's position, but I feel like the front three's functioned really well while Mo's been away. And that's a big part of it, because if we were still carrying Diaz and he wasn't contributing the way a couple of months ago, it might have been a lot more difficult to cope with Mo not being here. But because he's been lively, you know, Darwin's been like causing all sorts, shots, goals, assists, everything. Jota's just been like ruthless, just getting goals every time he plays. Gakpo's contributed. We've not missed Mo. Like, as mad as that is, we have not missed him. There's not been a game where you've been like, oh, we really need Mo. You know, we've coped fine. And the good thing is, like, he should be back soon. So it's perfect timing for him to come back as well.
I mean, not only have we coped, we've excelled.
Yeah.
We've scored at least 4 goals in 4 games where he's been away. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we've missed a step. In fact, we've kicked on hugely. Obviously, not because Mo is away and he's not been playing, but you know, alongside that. So yeah, like you say, it's great that we've got him coming back, and it might be one of those things that, I mean, obviously Sunday we'd like to have him available, but it might be one of those things where he gets a nice little rest now. And a lot of key players for us have had those like little rests during the season, like Robbo, Trent now will be ready for this like sprint between now and the end of May. You know, Dom's had a little break as well, and now Mo. So Jota, obviously,
Maka,
as well as...
had a bit of time off as well.
Sorry?
Maka had like a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, definitely. And so...
Costas,
you know,
he'll be back soon. Yeah.
Tiago's had a week or 2 off as well.
Tiago's back in training now.
Yeah.
Actual full training.
Yeah. He will be like a new signing in January, the old adage.
I still think he's got a significant part to play. You know, he's gonna like come in for a big game and he's gonna be fucking boss, and then he's gonna be injured and we won't see him again. But Thiago, his story here is not. It's not been written yet. Okay. There's still another chapter to go on it, I think.
Yep, that's another chapter called The Reoccurrence.
Where are we at in terms of recording time right now?
About 70.
Just going to bookmark that quote. We'll come back to that in in May. I've got nothing else to add. I mean, you guys were... Obviously, we got the fist pumps at the end of the game, the first ones done since we knew the news that Jurgen's leaving us. A little bit more oomph to that one.
Yeah, it's a very poignant moment. I mean, I like John's idea of recording them. I don't get to see the fist pumps because if I was still in the ground at the time, I wouldn't get home till like the week after. But I'm going to start staying, I think, because there's 28 games to go, isn't there, on the Klopp as a maximum? Mm-hmm. So I'm only going to get to see that a finite number of times. So there was definitely emotion, and like I say, you can hear it loud and clear when you're outside the ground as well. But this wasn't the normal noise. This was a feral kind of let's do this kind of reaction from the crowd and from Jurgen as well, I think. Obviously, he said he's feeling tired. And I was watching last night, and he did seem to spend a lot more time in the dugout than he has done in the past. So
yeah, I thought that as well.
Yeah, and I'd spotted that kind of midway through last season. You don't think anything more of it, do you? And then the news comes out, and it's like, okay, well, maybe the signs have been there. If you look hard enough, he is tired. But I digress anyway. The atmosphere was great last night from start to end and after end as well. So yeah, it's a big moment in the season, isn't it? We've got like that as a home game against a team we don't always beat at Anfield or otherwise, and we go over the hill for the next big challenge on Sunday. Another 3 points there, and we are in serious business.
I've got a delivery, boys. Just keep talking. I'll be back in a sec.
I think
We'll
one
just
thing,
keep recording, so you just carry on. It's fine.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we can mention, Chris, is I think Soboslai was back towards the high standards that he set last night. The whole team was, and that helps. But I thought Dom himself was a lot more involved. He was a lot more positive, more taking the game by the scruff of the neck, getting stuck in, winning the ball back. I thought he was really, really good last night. It's certainly the best he's played since probably the Forest game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the start of the season, and he was clearly our standout performer of the first few games of the season. I thought we were sort of talking about him and looking at his ceiling and talking about his, likening him to Gerrard and the like. And then he sort of dropped off a bit, and now he's come back in. Maybe sort of looks a little bit renewed, and now it's definitely a case of like he's going to have to keep that level to keep his place in the team, because we have so many options there in midfield. Obviously, if he's playing well, he's among the best of them. But the competition for places in that position now is really, really intense, and you get the sense that a lot of those players are going to start rising to the occasion in that way, as they are already.
Who's that you talking about there?
Soboslai.
Yeah, he was good last night, but I think he's the one most under threat if Trent moves into midfield, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm waiting on an important delivery, and that wasn't it. It was just the fucking postman.
Oh, God.
El Pistolero's coming today, so I'm waiting on that.
Oh, your putter.
Yeah.
Nice.
El Pistolero.
All right. Anything else from you, Dave, about tonight? I mean, in terms of Jurgen giving it the fist bumps to the crowd.
You keep saying tonight, is that because it's 5 o'clock in the morning for you and you've got up to specials to do this? Shout out to you, by the way. The listeners need to know Chris got up at 5 o'clock in the morning his time to host this pod, so nice one.
Oh no, yeah, well, it's a choice. It's not a chore. It's a choice. So, in terms of the fist bumps going off, and you see a performance like that, and you see the likes of Bradley and just how youthful and exuberant this team is, you just think, how can he leave this behind?
Yeah, but I understand his reasons for it, and he probably looks at it, what he's leaving behind. Like, he doesn't want to leave a mess behind for his successor to come in and have to clean it up. He can kind of walk away with a clear conscience, which he could have done anyway. No matter what, he could have walked away with a clear conscience for all that he's done for us. But he probably feels like I'd rather leave with the team in this state than needing all sorts of work. So, but I've said, as soon as the announcement was made, and he's saying about wanting to experience life, I'm like, yeah, life's a bit shit. Yeah, again, it's a bit boring. You'll want to go back to it. They always do. And he probably, in a few months after leaving, and he's experienced life for a few months. Well, I think it'll be at least 12 months, because I think there'll be an agreement with Liverpool where he doesn't take anything for a year. But after a year, he's going to be itching to get back into it. Now, maybe he might look at international management, because he's not having to do the full day-to-day grind. And it's not even that; it's all the other stuff that he has to do. That's what's worn him down, all the press duties and different stuff like that. He's probably had to do a lot more in terms of, because we've not had no sporting director, obviously. He's probably had to do a lot more in terms of those duties. I just think of everything. It's if it was just a case of him coming in, taking training, and taking charge of the matches, I don't think there'd be an issue. But it's not. It's everything else that goes with it. But on the fist bumps, after that happens, and we're walking up the ground, and I heard some fella, and he said to his mate, he went, tell you what, he went, Xabi Alonso fist pumps are just not going to be the same, are they? And I'm like, yeah, Xabi's going to have to do his own thing if it's him, because you just can't replicate Klopp. It's you just can't do it. He was a one-off.
Yeah.
Steve Cooper was doing that for Forest, though, and I'm like, oh, come on, get your own thing. Don't just fucking copy Klopp. Fucking hell.
Who was that? Wasn't it? Oh, yeah. There was a Wrexham player who... That Mullen, who plays for Wrexham, was giving it the big one when they beat Shrewsbury a few weeks ago in the Cup.
He's a red, though, isn't he?
Is he? Yeah. Fuck him, anyway. Can't be doing with them. Can't be doing with that whole Wrexham thing. Sorry if you listening. His name Paul Mullen. So yeah, Dave, should we do a few questions and keep it kind of brief because we've got a big game to talk about on Sunday as well.
Okay, we'll just keep the answers brief on these. Stay LFC 9. Does Conor Bradley deserve to keep his right back spot? And if so, would you play Trent in the midfield three going forward? And if that's the case, whose place does he take? Start with you, Chris.
Okay. So I, as excited as I am about Bradley, I think I've said this on the pod before. I think we need to be very, very careful with him, just to ensure that he's not. He's played a lot of football in the last few weeks already. I would err on the side of caution with him and try and make sure that we don't have another Bajcetic situation, and he sort of comes a cropper. I know he's had that full season at Bolton where he's played as well, but if you're judging it purely on form and whether he deserves to play in the team, then yes, he keeps his place, and yes, we push Trent into midfield anyway. But I think we should just do that anyway, whether it's Bradley or Gomez playing at right back.
Dan, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's difficult to disagree with anything that Chris has said there. Bradley is flying at the moment, but we do need to manage him and make sure that he doesn't play too much football, because such a thing is possible. But yeah, I think the time for Trent coming into midfield is galloping closer and closer, and I don't think we'll be able to avoid it for too much longer. And with Bradley excelling as he has done, maybe this is the time to do it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I think from when like a new manager comes in, I think Trent's going to be a midfield player. There was another little bit to that question as well. Do you think there's any chance that we sell Trent in the summer and he's thinking of FSG, Moneyball, etc.? I would say no, but at the same time, until that contract gets signed, you'd have to be a little bit. Like if the contract, and this is not what I think, but if the contract hasn't been signed and you get to the summer and he's down to 1 year, then if he wasn't going to sign, you'd have to think about like getting some money in. But I don't think that's the case. I do think he will sign. Someone told me last week, like a good source, don't be worrying about Real Madrid. Why are you saying like you're worried about him going to Real Madrid? Because Trent was apparently asked that and said, absolutely no chance. I want to be captain here. Like, this is like a off the record thing. It wasn't like he was doing an interview or anything, but it was mentioned and he was like, no, why would I want to leave? I want to be captain. So no, I don't think Trent will go in the summer, but depends on like new manager coming in, and you don't know, like contracts, all of that stuff's on the table. But I'd be surprised, let's just say that.
I'd be hugely surprised.
Yeah.
Hugely surprised. Go on.
Okay, on a similar theme to the whole should Bradley keep his place in that, Sean Leonard asks, when Salah is back, who makes way for him? And he's got, Jota scoring for fun, Núñez offers too much to leave out, and Diaz is finally looking confident on the ball again. So, who drops out for Mo?
Probably Diaz, isn't it? But I think like using the word dropping out is relative, isn't it? It's one of the big advantages that we have over Arsenal, without wanting to put a kiss of death on it, is the extra forward that we have. We have a lot of strength and depth in that front three, and that's a great thing. So I'm not sure that anyone's going to come in or drop out. I think it's just an opportunity to move the team around. We still need to be careful with Jota. He's played a lot of football, hasn't he, this month as well. He's not long since coming back from a few months out, so I don't see it as that. Like who comes in or who goes out. I see it as we will fully use our squad, especially if we've got 28 games to play.
Okay, Chris, let me phrase this another way then. When Mo comes back, is it going to be Mo who plays every game no matter what, or is he going to have to deal with the same kind of rotation that all the other forwards have to deal with?
Depends what kind of shape he's in when he gets back, I suppose. Like, you don't know what... We've already talked a little bit about Mo, and he's not got the same sort of explosive pace anymore, and he's using his attributes in different ways. It's going to take him a while, I think, to sort of be back up to full speed, metaphorically speaking. Maybe he'll never be back up to full speed, literally speaking. But what was the question again?
Will he be rotated?
Is he going to be playing every?
Is
Is he going to be playing every
week? Or is it
week?
going to be the way it's always been, where he just plays no matter what?
No, I don't think it's going to be the way it's always been when he plays, no matter what. We've got 4 in-form other strikers, and as Dan says, completely agree with Dan. It'll be horses for courses. We'll use the squad. Mo off the bench coming on is a huge threat. He's always like Scrappy-Doo, champing at the bit to come on and get his goal, pissed off that he hasn't started the game, even if it's some far-flung Europa League tie or whatever. Comes on and makes an impact. More than happy with that. We can use that. In the way that Klopp manages these things just so well, we can use that aggression and that sort of desire for him, and maybe umbrage that he hasn't started the game. So, yeah, I think he will. To answer the question, yes, I think he will start a little less often than he has.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he starts every game anymore. Okay, our boy James Skelly asks, is Maka up there with Rodri as the best 6 in the league at the moment? Now, I think he's maybe, there's a bit of a typo there. I think he's put Rodri, I think he means Endo. But is Maka up there as one of the best 6s in the league? I'm going to say yeah.
Performance
He
level at the moment, definitely.
Sorry, Chris, go on.
Yeah, just performance level, absolutely he is. I mean, you look around the league and you've got Declan Rice, the lad at Fulham has been excellent as well. Obviously, Rodri it is a standout as well, but he's his performance level. He's definitely up there. You want to see it over a longer period of time, and him sort of make that position his own before you sort of went that far. But none of us are disappointed with him at the moment. Are we? Put it that way.
Yeah, I think the game's changed. Not so much the game itself, but the way top teams are playing, and this whole mobile destroyer thing that a lot of us had in mind, what we wanted. I don't think you're going to see that. I just don't think that's how top teams are wanting to play. And Maka may well end up just being the number 6. I don't know whether we'll ever see him actually playing in the position he was initially bought for. I think this is where he's going to play now, because it depends on who comes in as manager, of course.
Exactly,
the next manager might want someone who's more of a Caicedo type, if you like. But if it's Alonso, probably not. I think he'd probably stick with Maka as the deep lying playmaker, not a destroyer, but does enough defensively for what you want. I think that's where he's going to end up now, and I think there's just different types of 6s, isn't there? And he's not like your stereotypical number 6. He's not like that Lavia Caicedo type. He's different, but I think that's what Klopp wants, and I think that's why.
Well, it's what he wants now.
Yeah, and
it's
then
not what he wanted in the summer. So it was never a plan to have him there.
No, but
it's just worked out that way.
He could have compromised and got a Diet Coke Caicedo, couldn't he?
Well, he did, and he got Endo in it. And
Endo's
that
not
beautifully as
really
well.
like that though. He's not that type. I don't know.
But he's not a playmaker that you're talking about.
No, but he's really underrated in his use of the ball. But he's more similar to McAllister than he is to Caicedo.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, well, Mac is boss, and he's one of the best as a 6. So I think we all kind of agree on that.
Yeah, but can we just agree that McAllister needs to get a lot better at not getting yellow cards, because Rodri seems to be immune from getting them?
Yeah, I think he looks like he's been never. Oh, hang on, I think I'll Pistoleros here. I'll leave you another question. So why wasn't Pep Lijnders considered for the top job? Considering the continuity aspect with the academy, why would you bring someone else in to dismantle that completely?
Go on, Dan.
I can only think he's not good enough. He's had that managerial spell before, hasn't he, in Holland? I'm not going to even try and pronounce the name of the team because I can't remember it. But you
Okay.
must think that the issue that we've had with is we just don't think he's up to it. We just don't think he's going to be good enough. And this
So
is all I can think of.
I've got a slightly different take on this. I don't see the fact that they've announced that he's leaving at the end of the season as a sign that he's out of the running for the job. I think if it isn't done already, which it might very well be done, there's a big part of me that does think that it's all lined up and good to go. A lot of me also thinks that it hasn't, because they were giving Jurgen every opportunity to change his mind, and perhaps wouldn't have approached their top target before he actually confirmed it. It's only January, we've got loads of time before it needs to be confirmed. But I do think that if there is going to be a process, Linders will be interviewed. He will get a fair crack of the whip if he thinks he's up for the job. I just don't think the fact that we've announced that he'll leave with Klopp is a sign for sure that he won't be the manager. I think he's got, of all the candidates out there, he will be spoken to. He'll have a chance to put his case forward, and given all of the things that the person who asked the question mentioned, Dave didn't say who that was, but thanks very much for that.
It was Peter Redwall, 47.
Okay, Peter Redwall, 47. Yeah, I think there's every chance in the world he's going to be considered for it.
I don't know. I just feel like the fact that they've said he's leaving sort of means he's not going to be considered for it, which tells me they already know who they want to get. Obviously, they can't say that. They're going to have to say they're going through a process, but if they are going through a process, he should be one of the first people they speak to. So I'll be really sad to see him go. Not necessarily saying I want him as manager, but I'd rather have him than a lot of the other candidates who've been mentioned, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even last night when Klopp was saying about Conor Bradley, and he said, like, he remembers a couple of years ago, Pep Linders sat in his office and he was like, I'll put both hands in the fire and tell you he's going to make it. I'm sure about him. And like, he said, like, Vito Matos and Pep are always in his ear about these young players. Like, you've got to give them a chance. Don't be buying someone. We've got this kid. We don't need to do it. And I feel like that's been such an important part of what we're doing. You can't replace Klopp, we all know that, but I also feel like we're losing other stuff as well as Klopp. So hopefully whoever comes in is going to be as committed to doing this as they've been, because I feel like that's the way forward for a club like us, because you're not going to compete with the spending of like the cheats and Real Madrid or whatever. You're just not going to be able to do that. But if you're bringing through so many of your own players, when there is that one special talent who becomes available and the transfer fee is like 100 million, 120 million, well, you can afford to do that if you're not having to buy 3 or 4 squad players, because you've brought through those players yourself. So I think it's like really important for us to continue doing that. Plus, it feels great when you've got kids coming through. There's just a real feel-good factor about it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in an era where you look at most teams around or a lot of teams around the Premier League, and sometimes us, and there isn't really an identification with the area, is there? There's nothing that connects a lot of those players to the roots of the club, and you're right. It feels amazing to see the likes of Bradley and Curtis and Trent, and even people like Harvey as well. I feel like they still count as like homegrown.
Yeah. So we've got one from Paul Lunny, and he says, was Joe Cole born in a Kinder Egg? I'm going to say yeah, I think so, because he looks like the guy who sat on the wall like back in the day. And
yeah. Oh my God, that's a flashback. Good one, that.
And then our own Paul, where does Conor Bradley's performance rank in terms of young Liverpool players announcing themselves in such spectacular fashion?
You should answer that, Dave.
Well, who've we got? Michael Owen came on and scored immediately at Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Fowler got 5 against Fulham. It wasn't his first game, but then this isn't Conor Bradley's first game either. Mm-hmm. So those two stand out. Gerrard,
Curtis scored against Everton. That screamer, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to put him ahead of Fowler's 5 goals. Not going to put him ahead of Michael Owen because Michael Owen was 17 when he did what he did. But it's in the conversation, like for anything else, I suppose. Anyone else you think of?
No, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of just the impact, it took a lot. Like, Carragher came in and scored on his debut and grew into his role, gradually over time and became that linchpin for us. I don't remember looking at Gerrard immediately and having that same feeling, but I wasn't following him through the youth team, so there wasn't any sort of...
No, when he first got in, remember the Tottenham game?
No, I don't.
I think he played right back against Tottenham, really good. Goal line clearance against Everton, and he celebrated it like he'd scored. These were all early games. His goal against Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know how many games he'd played before that. No, Gerrard was brilliant right from the start.
Okay.
But yeah, considering, like I said earlier on, I think he made his debut 10 days ago. Full debut 10 days ago, and it feels like he's been around for months. So I think that tells you a lot, really, doesn't it? Yeah. El Pistolero did arrive, by the way, so
hooray.
I've not opened the box or anything yet, but I'll be doing that as soon as we finished. So
have you told the listeners about this?
No. So I don't even think Dan knows. Did I tell you last night, Dan? I'm not sure.
No, but I know you like your golf.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, I write for Golf Monthly, and they asked me to go and get like a custom putter experience at Ping. So it normally costs like $2,000 if you want to do that, but I didn't have to pay anything like that. I went there to write a feature on it, so I went through the process. Basically, it's the same process that like the tour pros would get. So it's like Victor Hovland's like Ping's best player, so I was treated as though Victor Hovland's come in to get a putter fit, and so you get like all the technology, all of that stuff. I won't bore you with the details of that. So you get a putter that's built for your own putting stroke, and you can also customise it. So they like, you can have whatever you want engraved on the bottom. And I was like, okay, yeah, sound. Can I have the Liverpool way and El Pistolero? Because I thought, what a cool name for a putter, like, the pistol, and it's Suarez's nickname. I'm like, yeah, I definitely want that. So I've got it. I've seen a photo of it already, so I know what it looks like, but I can't wait to get it out and try it. And I've got to rehearse now, like the Suarez goal celebration for any time I sink a putt, like kissing the wrist and then the finger guns and all that. So I'm going to be doing that now with me and El Pistolero.
It's like your own take on Shooter McGavin.
Yeah. So I'm like proper excited about it. Can't wait to get out with it now.
Just don't be like your other boy, Dave, and continually hit the edge of the hole.
I know. That's why like I didn't get like anything to do with Darwin on it, because I thought, nah, I don't need that for short putts and stuff. No, I'll go with El Pistolero.
Nice. All right, have we got any more questions that you want to tackle?
No, we'll talk about Arsenal. I'll just check Twitter and see if anyone else has sent anything through, and if there's anything jumps out, we'll come back to it. But yeah, we may as well get to Arsenal.
Right. I know we've switched this up because I was basically waking up and sitting behind my microphone with a coffee, but I don't like it. Can we go back to the way it was before? I like asking the questions and then riffing off what you guys have said. So
yeah, okay.
Didn't feel natural.
I don't like doing that either. So.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, so Dan, Arsenal, gosh, what a massive game we have in prospect on Sunday. And as you said, if we do find a way to win it, as we did in the Cup a couple of weeks ago, different context, obviously, but my goodness, coming out of that with 3 points, and you really are perhaps daring to think that it's... Right now it's possible. I'd look at if we win on Sunday and think it's edging towards probable.
I mean, you'll need to be 4 points in front with one game left before I'll say anything's probable, but yes. I think for me, like, we've been having this chat before, and a few people are saying, no, we need to go and win, we need to get 6 points. And I'm like, no, we don't. A draw is perfectly fine. Arsenal are a very good team. I think they will probably be quite hungry for revenge after the Cup game, actually. I think that might play on their mind. They'll carry more of a threat than Chelsea did last night as well, because they're better going forward. Chelsea have goal scoring problems, Arsenal don't really. It's going to be a tough one. I would take a draw if I was offered it now. I would, just because if you...
Boo.
No, but historically, I know obviously we're not in normal history because of Manchester City's cheating, but if it was normal history, you go and draw away at your title rivals, and that's normally fine. And I would say that is... I would take a draw. Can we go there and win? We absolutely can. If we play like we did last night, there's no way that Arsenal will be able to handle us defensively. There's no way. And you look back to that game we drew with them just before Christmas. We should have beaten them, shouldn't we? You know, we had the Trent chance when we had the entire pitch to run into, and we still fluffed it. What I will say is now we wouldn't botch that. We would score that goal now with the way everyone's playing and the form we're in. So it's tricky. I think we can go there and win. I don't know if we will. I would. I can see a draw, and I would be perfectly happy with that, to be honest. A draw away to your title rivals is not a result to be sniffed at.
See, I don't disagree with that. No, I think that's fine. The only thing I disagree with was saying you'd take it if it was offered now. I wouldn't. Absolutely not. We're better than them. We beat them the other week. I'm not taking a draw. If it ends up in a draw, then it's not the end of the world. It is a decent result, but I wouldn't be like taking that before kick-off. I think we'll win. I think, like I say, I think we're better than Arsenal. Arsenal are really good. This is not a knock on Arsenal. I just think the way we're playing at the moment, we've got the bit between our teeth. We know what it takes when you go up against City. Draws. It's the draws that fuck you up, really. You know, you have too many draws, you feel like you're going along nicely, and you go, well, that's not a bad result. You know, draw against this team, draw against that team, it's fine. And then you look at the end of the season, and you've like lost one, which has happened to us before. We've lost one game, and we've missed out on the title by a point, even though we've lost less games than City. So the draws are the thing that do the damage, because you kind of think you're ticking along okay. Oh, we're unbeaten in 10, yeah, we've drawn 4 of them, but, you know... And it just gives you a false sense of security. So no, just go and win the game. We're better than them. Go out and show it. Win the game.
Mm-hmm. And importantly, I think we've often talked in the past about like getting that cushion with over City, because they're not so great in terms of reeling you in. But if you let them get ahead of you, they'll continue the streak, and you have to match them then. And invariably, that hasn't ended well for us. But if we win on Sunday, they don't play till Monday. It'll be 8 points. And granted, they will have 2 games in hand, but you know, Brentford away is a tricky one. From a psychological point of view, just getting 8 points ahead of them, and also by the same token, 8 points ahead of Arsenal, putting them in the rearview mirror as well, because I don't think they're 100% out of this yet. Like, I think a lot of people have written them off too soon, and you know, they are a good side, and they will put a run of wins together. But just from all perspectives, Dan, from a psychological point of view, if we can get this win, then man, that's among the biggest we could imagine at the moment.
Huge, yeah. I think you've just touched on one thing that I was going to mention, which is that City don't play till Monday night, and if we do go there and win, and the gap is 8 points, City will look, oh no, like Brentford away is not the easiest game in the world. They're kind of scrapping for their lives at the moment because they've had a bad run with injuries and not playing well. They've got Ivan Toney back, who's a red, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be... You could see City creaking a little bit if we can go to Arsenal and win. But, yeah, it's all about the pressure, isn't it? We need to just apply as much pressure as we can. And, obviously, by winning Arsenal, that would put the pressure on City. We had the pressure on us last night a little bit as well, didn't we? You know, like, we would... Going into that game, well aware that that City had won, so City were going to win against Burnley. That was never in doubt, and Arsenal had scrapped one out at Forest the night before. So you know, like, we responded last night, and it's kind of down to us to kind of reapply that pressure now, because it will really concertina everything if Arsenal beat us, which I would hope is not going to happen.
Yeah, well, the 8 points. I think if we beat Arsenal, that does put them out of it. The 8 points, they're not making up 8 points on us, plus the psychological effect it'll have on them. If Arsenal beat us, obviously that's a totally different story. They're right back in it. But yeah, so winning that game, going 8 points clear of Arsenal, I'm dismissing Arsenal after that. If that's the case, I'm not worried about them. And what it does is, like, if you're playing Brentford away and you're ahead in the table or you're level or whatever, it feels a lot different than playing Brentford away when you've got 8 points to make up. Like, it's a game that City should win, but it's potentially, we've seen it, Brentford away, we've had problems there. It's potentially like a really tough game because they play well against the good teams. They're one of those sides you put them up against a good team and they'll give them problems. So if we do get 8 points clear, I'm not saying I'm watching that game because I'm not going to watch it. I don't watch City, and I'm certainly not going to start now that we're in a run-in with them, because I've been there before and it's not fun watching them. So I'll try to just avoid it and then check the score later on. But on the subject of Brentford, did you see what Neil Maupay did last night?
Yeah.
It's proper funny. Like, did you see what he said afterwards as well, though, Dan?
Yeah.
Do you know about
I
it,
didn't
Chris?
see that.
So
No.
he scored early on away at Tottenham, and he did Maddison's dart celebration. So obviously, like, the Tottenham players are all pissed off, and like, the crowd's all pissed off, and it backfires on him because Spurs came back to win. And Maddison made some comments afterwards, and I'm not sure what he said, but like, he referenced it and said Maupay. Thomas Frank wasn't happy about it either. Thomas Frank was like, "Yeah, I'd rather our players didn't do that because it just." It's tempting fate. It gets the other team all riled up. So Maupay then says afterwards, I think I went a little bit too early with that one. And then he said, but, at least I've scored more goals and I've had less relegations than James Maddison.
Nice. Yeah, fucking Maddison needs to have a thicker skin about that. The wind-up merchant that he is.
I know.
Like, fucking hell. Don't be so fucking precious about it.
Yeah, I don't see that as a big deal at all. I just think if you're going to do something like that and someone does it back to you, well, so what? It's not a big deal, is it?
And that, of course, James Maddison, of course, a man who likes to sit in the darts crowd, where it's like full of shit banter. It's like, just let it go, man.
Disappointed me. I like James Maddison. That's disappointing.
He's a great player.
Yeah. Dave, who's our most important player on Sunday? Obviously, there's going to be, all over the pitch, we're going to have to be exceptional. But if there's one player you think is going to make the difference for us on the day, who do you think it's going to be?
The obvious one for me to say is Darwin, purely because it comes down to if he can finish the chances, because he will get chances. He'll make chances for himself. Chances will come. We need him to score.
Yeah.
I feel like it's singling out at any player is difficult because you look all over the pitch. There's going to be battles all over the pitch. We don't know who's going to play left back. We don't know if Robbo comes back in or if Gomez keeps his place. But whoever plays there has got to handle Saka. On the right hand side, I was going to say about the right back handling Martinelli, but Konate's generally done that when we've played against him. He's just sort of boxed off that side himself and just let Trent do his thing, hasn't he? So, I'm going to say Darwin just because it just comes down to like if he puts the ball in the net or not. If he does, I think no question we win the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if he does, we're going to win it handsomely. We're not just going to win it. Dan, same question to you.
Oh, it was a number 20. Yeah, Jota. His record against Arsenal is really, really good. To the extent where I think it's a little bit psychological with him.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, not this dipshit again. Kind of like how we used to feel about Kevin Lisby and O'Neill Donaldson, if you remember that.
Well, they only did it once. It's not like they did it every time we played them. Eden Hazard would be a better example.
Hazard.
Kevin Lisby. Fucking hell, Dan.
Sean Bartlett used to like a goal against Liverpool as well.
Darren Bent.
Darren Bent was another one who liked to go against Liverpool. Just this list of like early 2000s or 90s jabronis we've enabled. Just had to make me annoyed. I think it's a bit psychological with Arsenal and Jota. To be honest with you, his record against them is fantastic. And it was the same with Bobby as well, wasn't it? We've regularly beat the shit out of Arsenal in recent years. And it kind of like the teams have like wild swings, don't they? Like we'll go for years where we'll beat Arsenal home and away, and then they'll have a run, not recently though, where they'll beat us home and away as well. I just think that Jota's in such good. Sorry, Jota. Jota's in such good form at the moment. We need to take our chance when it comes, and you'd back him to be the man to do that if it comes his way, and just need him to just play how we've been playing, basically.
Who's yours, Chris?
You know what? Like Kanate, I'm going to say, because just like if he can continue that run of form, and we know we can rely on Verge, but I think if Kanate can continue that run of form of just handling their front men and getting the ball off them and making sure, I think through that we can control the game by taking the ball off them and just keeping it ourselves, right? Like I think that's going to be a key. We don't want to be under sustained pressure from them. They won't want the same from us. Like I think a good game from him, handling their forwards in the way he has done in previous weeks, will do a great deal towards nullifying any threat that they can pose us, and they'll also just allow us to get back on the front foot constantly. Like they commit men forward and attack. It gives us all the space in the world to exploit and get our impact players involved in good areas with space. Like we saw a number of times in that game against them at Anfield where we just had numbers on them and we didn't make the best of those situations. There's an opportunity for us to repeat that, especially because they'll be at home and they will be committing more men forward anyway. So maybe a bit of a left field shout, but I think he's going to be really important for us.
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually.
Agreed.
So what about the team, Dan? We sort of touched on this earlier in terms of the big questions. Really are, I'd say, probably the only questions, because if everybody's fit, I'd say we'd keep the goalkeeper, the centre halves, the midfield, and the forwards all playing. I think it's just a case of who we choose to go with in the fullback positions. Do we stay with the hot hands and have players who've been serving us well, or do we bring the old faithfuls back in and allow them to do their thing in big games as they've done for us time and time again?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because like, how can you want to change that from last night? You don't want to make any changes to that team, really, do you? But at the same time, have we got a better chance of winning a game with Trent Alexander-Arnold on the field than we have? I'll start that again. Sorry. Have we got a better chance of winning a game with Trent Alexander-Arnold on the field when I can't talk? Never mind. Trent is.
Does Trent give us a better chance of winning?
Yeah, there you go. That's the easier way of saying it. I'm getting fatigued, Dave. Lay off me.
How do you think Chris feels? It's fucking 6 o'clock in the morning where he is. It's actually 7 now, yeah? It would be like 2 hours.
That was why I said it. So Trent gives us a great chance of winning the game. Obviously, he's on the field. It's a tricky one. I would probably say leave it as it is, definitely at left back. And, yeah, bring Trent on when, like, depending on how the game's going. If we're, like, 2-0 up, then just bring Trent on to help control it. If we're losing 1-0, then Trent can inject himself into the game wherever we need him to. So, yeah, let's stay completely unchanged. Obviously, we have a week off after this game, don't we? We don't have a game midweek. So we can launch ourselves into this one with fullness of forethought. Like, just go for it and see where it lands us.
I wouldn't want to make that decision. I think it's the fullbacks. I mean, it's really difficult. I think maybe it's dependent on Maka, if Maka's fit or not. If he is fit, then you've got to make a decision on what you do with Trent. I think Trent will come back in for Conor Bradley to start the game, but I think by the end of the game, Trent will probably be in midfield and Conor Bradley will be at right back. If McAllister starts, that is. If McAllister doesn't start, then Conor Bradley stays at right back for me, and Trent in midfield. But I'm starting Joe Gomez at left back. I think the way Robbo's being used tells me they think he needs easing back in a little bit. Because he was out for so long, he's maybe not. He's fit enough to play, but maybe not match sharpness isn't there.
I thought he was slightly rusty last
night. I thought so too, and I think the fact that he's only been given these little cameos tells me Joe Gomez will play, especially because you're up against Saka, and Gomez has done so well against them. So I think they'll hold Robbo back a little bit longer. It's the right back is the one that's the difficult call. I also have got a little suspicion, and this despite me saying about Darwin being like the most important player, I think there's a chance that Gakpo starts, just because Darwin played the full game last night, and often like Klopp will rotate it when players with the forwards, you know, the one who's played the most will maybe sit it out, and maybe Darwin didn't start the cup game at Arsenal, did he? Didn't he come on? I don't think he
I
started
can't
it.
remember.
I think you're right.
So
Rings a bell.
maybe Gakpo starts through the middle in that one. I don't know. Either way, Darwin's going to be on the pitch at some point and he's going to get chances, so I stand by what I said. But I wouldn't be surprised if Klopp rotated it a little bit just to do with the minutes that people have been playing.
Mm-hmm.
And Gakpo's been
Anyone in
looking
partic-
sharp lately as well when he's been playing, so...
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Anyone in particular, Dan, that concerns you from them? Like last night I looked at Chelsea and I thought, like, if we can stop Cole Palmer sort of occupying those half spaces and doing damage in front of the back four, then, you know, we should be on to a good thing, because they don't really have anything else in that respect. McAllister, you know, did that. I barely saw Cole Palmer on the ball at all last night. But yeah, like you look at Arsenal and that player is probably Odegaard. So like, is he the one that sort of concerns you most about them, or is there anybody else that you look at and think that we might struggle against?
Yeah, Odegaard is the one that gets between the lines, doesn't he? He's a great player. McAllister's going to have his hands full with him. But if you can stop him, then you kind of like slow Arsenal down. Maybe you can turn to our fans and try and get them to raise the game like he did in
yeah,
the cup
that was
game.
funny.
I always I look at Saka as well, and you know he is a really really good player. So keeping him quiet is going to be important. But yeah, if you can kind of slow Odegaard down and keep on top of him and stop him from pulling strings like he does, then that I would say that is a massive way to keep Arsenal quiet.
Do you think Arsenal will approach the game the way they approach the cup game, where they come flying at us at
Yes.
the start?
Arsenal have to win that game.
See, because I think part of that was just we did not start well. Like, they did start well, they played well, but it's one of the... And this is the thing that, like, we're really going to... It worries me. I think we're going to miss. It's like an underrated thing that doesn't get spoken about much. But any time we're not having a good first half, I'm not worried. All I'm thinking is, okay, get to half time, show them the clips of what they're doing wrong. You know, Klopp will get into them and say, right, you need to be doing this, don't be doing that, this is the spaces to play in. He comes out and he says this after every game. Even last night he was talking about different stuff that they showed them. And it totally changes the game. Like, that Arsenal Cup game is a classic example of that. Like, we were shit in that first half, and it was just to do with playing in the wrong areas. And as soon as Klopp said to them about, look, they're pressing, they're doing this is the pass you need to play to stop that. The second half's a totally different game, and that's a big strength of ours, is that ability to just analyse what's going on and fix it at half time, and then the second half, like, we're much better. And that's what happened in the cup game. So if Arsenal do the same thing, in theory, we should be ready for it from the start. So I think we'll start the game better than we did last time. But I think it's going to be a great game. Like, I think it's going to be end-to-end chances for both teams. Just hope that we take more chances than they do.
One of those that you have to kind of watch through your fingers in front of your eyes at times, yeah. I'm sure.
Like, we're not going to go there and not allow Arsenal to create chances.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how good you are, that's not going to happen. Arsenal are going to have chances because they're a really good side and they're an attacking side. You know, they're just not very clinical. That's been like a big problem for them. They've not scored enough goals. They have loads of the ball in the other team's box. They play good football, but sometimes they just try to walk it in, don't they? The old Wenger days where, like, 10 passes in the box, no one wants to shoot.
What's that show, that the It Crowd, isn't it, where he tries to act like he knows about football, and he goes, you know what a big problem with Arsenal is? They always try to walk it in, don't they? Did you see that absolutely shocking display last night? Yeah, definitely. Just really fucking exciting games to be involved in, though. Like I said to John Brennan before the game last night, we were just chatting, and I was just saying that I'm trying not to look at every game through the prism of it being important in terms of, like, winning the league title, because I don't want that. I'm trying to shy away from that awful feeling of being in that title race with City, and then invariably, I mean, every time it's been a race, they've come out on top. So you're carrying the scars of that, and I was just kind of going into the game last night trying to the cliche of just taking it one at a time and enjoying it, but like it's going to be pretty hard to ignore if we emerge victorious from this one. Like we're going to have to be like just all in now, and come what may, the stakes have never been higher, I don't think, now, knowing that this is the last opportunity under Klopp. The heartbreak will be twice as bad as it's been before. If it comes off for us, it'll be like nothing any of us have ever experienced before.
Yep.
So it's all or nothing again, isn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of which, what are your thoughts on the TV show that they're doing?
Good segue.
It wasn't
I
it?
don't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, but I'm also intrigued because we're going to get to see what's going on, like, access to stuff that we'd never normally see. So I'm intrigued by it, but if I had a choice, should we do it or not, I would say no.
I think what it will do through the lens of Klopp leaving is it will give us, if it does come off in the way that we want it to, or even if it doesn't, it'll give us a look at something we would have previously never seen before.
Yeah, but if it does, imagine.
Yeah.
It'll be the greatest
exactly.
TV show ever, won't it? It'll top The Sopranos. I never thought anything would ever replace The Sopranos for me, but that would.
Yeah. Let's just hope the ending has a bit more clarity.
Yeah.
Dan, do you have anything else? Because we've gone for a couple of hours now. I know the long ones have been going over well with the listeners lately, but is there anything else you want to add about last night, about the whole situation we find ourselves in, or looking ahead to Sunday?
Yes, and this will be good for John Gallagher's work, won't it? The longer format. So I think just for my closing comments, like obviously I wasn't on the podcast last week, the emergency one with Jurgen. So I guess I just want to say thanks to him for some of the best nights of my life. Barcelona 4-0 probably being the peak of it. We've got 28 games to go, as I keep saying. Let's try and win them all. We're going to have to win all the pots, because we're up against the biggest cheating machine that sport has ever produced. And that's the sad thing, isn't it? In any other season, in any other run of football, Jurgen Klopp would have 4 or 5 Premier League titles, probably another European Cup, but for that Adrian dipshit. And I'm never going to let that go. I'm honestly never going to let that go.
Only you, Dan, could start paying tribute to the years under Jurgen and segue into your beef with Adrian.
That Atletico Madrid game, I'll never let that go. I'll never get over that one. So yeah, it's kind of I'm very grateful for everything that he's done for us. I'm very sad he's leaving, but I fully respect his decision. If he's not able to carry on, the next appointment is huge. It's probably going to be Alonso. I don't see any kind of way around that. It was a short list of 2 after Wednesday, being 2-0 down after 3 minutes. I think he's fluffed his lines, but having said that, Leverkusen drew 0-0 at the weekend, didn't they? So it's just a time of change when I didn't expect it. I always thought that Jurgen was going to sign another deal, actually. So this is, to me, is kind of like a double surprise. But he's been unequivocal about the fact that he's not going to take another job in this country. So, you believe him. He's not going to go to another club. Who knows? In the future, he may come back to Liverpool. But I hope it doesn't come to that, because never go back and all that. And nothing but thanks and love for him. And I'm not excited about the future yet, because number one, it's nothing to be excited about. A future without Jurgen Klopp is not appealing, but it's happening, and we need to kind of get our head around it. And I sort of started doing now. I've started reading articles about how Leverkusen play and about how the Leverkusen director of football views things and all that. So I've kind of started to move on. But
Xabi's agent was at the game last night, by the way.
Oh, that's not going to add fuel to the fire, is it? So it's just that really, Chris. Yeah, like, thank you, Jurgen, and There's plenty of football, plenty more football to come, because God fucking knows it's going to go to penalties in extra time against Chelsea, isn't it? So
Actually, I
I
want to
said that
talk
to my
about that because that game was so easy last night. How is that final gonna be 0-0 in pens? Surely not. Surely, like, we beat them easily because the gulf between the teams is just massive.
Yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't that much at all. They were European champions at the time of those finals, weren't they? I think when we played them.
They were good games. I thought we shaded both
Yeah.
games, but there was
Yeah.
how they were 0-0. I mean, there was chances
No.
like at both ends, wasn't there? But
disallowed goals.
this time, I mean, we're so much better than them. It's like surely, like I know we never win finals easily, but surely this time we get like a 2 or 3-0 comfortable win.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's. I think it's the least of our concerns at the moment, and I think invariably we find a way to win those League Cup finals, and I think we will this time. And I think this time it probably won't be 0-0 and goes to pens, because we're not really drawing any games 0-0, are we? So, like on the Jurgen stuff, like I go through spells of how I feel about it, and I just want to. I think it's important, like in terms of the context of what I'm going to say. But I want to read a text I sent to you on Tuesday morning, Dave. I said, I don't know about you guys, but I'm struggling with the news quite a bit. I feel so down and just incredibly sad. I've had a poor start to the year in general, and I tend to have spells where I have the blues, but this just feels awful. And I said that a lot of us have lost a parent, so I wouldn't denigrate or trivialize that by comparing it to a football manager leaving, but it's reminiscent of that feeling of grief and heaviness where everything else is experienced through that lens. You wake up and it's just kind of on you. And that was Tuesday. And I feel like Wednesday, and we're on Thursday now, like Wednesday sort of has brought me out of that. And I think maybe the last couple of games has done that for a lot of people who have been struggling with this news, and got us now looking forward to it and up for it, and just come what may, just experiencing it from a perspective of we're not going to have this for very long. Let's just enjoy it while we can, and make the most of every single moment.
That's where I'm at, and I'm also not really. Although I've said, I think Alonso should be the next manager, whatever. I don't want to think about that. For the time being, I want to just enjoy what we've got and not be worrying about what comes next. Like, worry about that when the season's done. It's nothing that we're in control of anyway. The club's going to do whatever the club's going to do. There's no point wasting time and energy thinking about it, arguing about it, or whatever. Let's just enjoy every second of what we've got now. Like with Klopp, he's still here. He hasn't gone anywhere yet. So forget talk of all the other stuff and let's just enjoy this. Because what we've had over the last, basically since he stepped through the door. I mean, he didn't have a good team when he took over, but immediately we were fun to watch, and there was a buzz and an excitement. And then when he did get a team that was capable of like winning stuff, I mean, look at the home record. It's fucking unbelievable. Like the home record we've had. You take the COVID season out when there's no fans in the ground. Klopp, Anfield, the fans. You put like that all that together, and look at the record, and not just the record, but the performances. Like that game last night, as brilliant as that was, we've had like 20, 30 games like that easily over the last 5 years. Games at Anfield. That was not something that stands out where you're like, oh, remember that game against Chelsea wasn't that good. We've had loads of them. That it's kind of almost normal, especially when like the stakes are high and we're going for stuff, and we need performances. That what we seen last night is nothing unusual. It's kind of standard for like a big game under Klopp. That's what we generally get, and that's what we're I think we've just got to savour that as much as we can, because we've had it so good. Most teams never experience what we've had over like the last few years, and rather than worrying about what comes next, let's just enjoy what we've got for now, and then deal with the rest later.
Yeah, good stuff. Well said, Dave. Okay, well that seems like a really wonderful place to wrap it up. Just an unbelievably good win for the Reds last night. 5 points clear at the top of the table. Just an incredibly important game as well coming up on Sunday. You feel like an awful lot rides on that. Hopefully we're coming to you on Sunday evening after a win, and we're keeping this momentum going, and keeping that good feeling going. It's going to be important between now and May to have that sense for our own well-being. Really tumultuous times ahead, but for now we're purely focused on what we've got to look forward to. So nice one, Dave. Nice one, Dan. Dave, I'm sure you'll be back as soon as the game's over on Sunday. Hopefully that'll be up Sunday night for you all to listen to, or on your commute on Monday morning. Thanks for bearing with us in the time of getting this one up. We didn't record when Dave and Dan got in from the match last night. It's really, really late, and I think the quality of this podcast will be reflected in the fact that we all had a kip and could see it through. Well, you two, especially.
Well, we wouldn't have done over 2 hours last night, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So, I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks again so much for listening. It means the world to us. Dave will be back on Sunday, and until then, we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this was boom. Ooh, what was this? It was really good.